I always love how they sign off the show. It always makes me feel good about things. Welcome to a very special Thursday edition of Chicago Live. I'm your host, Jake Hamilton. We have a lot of things coming up over the next 3 hours on the show. We're going to lead off in just a moment. We're going to go through a couple of things that we're going to talk about. You know what? Emily Walls is going to be in here to hopefully not have much to talk about. I feel like all of our meteorologists here at Fox 32 have been constantly delivering bad news because of the weather and the very, very serious storms that have been coming through our area, and of course the recovery efforts. But let's take a live look outside if we can, because this is one of the best days. We get daily emails in the morning from the illustrious Mike Kaplan letting us know what's in store for the rest of the day. And I believe today's email, I think he called it one of the best days so far this summer. So naturally, look at that, naturally, it would land on a Thursday. Why would we want this on a Friday or a Saturday or Sunday when we could have it on a day when most of us have to be at work, inside, not able to enjoy it? But you know what? We're going to bring in Emily Walls, who hopefully can just point at the screen and say, hey, yeah, looks nice. Not much happening. Clear blue skies. Just a couple of clouds in the sky, really. Also, I mentioned those very serious storms, and the people in Northwest Indiana, our friends in Northwest Indiana, who are deeply, deeply still impacted by those storms that rolled through. And listen, just because those storms roll through, just because oftentimes the reporters leave town, doesn't mean that the story has stopped. We're still covering it out there because the recovery efforts continue. And we're going to talk with some folks that are still helping people out there. The recovery efforts are still going on. There are still people that need help. And so we're going to be talking with folks who are still dealing with the ripple effects, the repercussions of those storms that blew through. Also, we're going to be talking with our good friends over at Fox Detroit, who are always fun to check in with. And, it's just always great to kind of check in with different Fox markets and see what exactly they got going on over there. I know Ronya Shimona, I gave her a hard time last time that we spoke because she had yet to see the Odyssey yet. And all I know is that I had, where is it? I got this in the mail from her, which I know if you can see, it's far away. It's a little The Odyssey pin. It's Odysseus's little boat that he uses, a little ship to go home. I don't know if this is indicative that Ronya finally got it together and went and saw the Odyssey, but we're going to be able to find out the answer. I'm sure there are far more important things that I should be asking her about, but this is what I'm leading off with. But first off, we actually do have a lot of serious things that we need to talk about over the course of the next couple of hours here on Chicago Live. First up, CTA is expanding its partnership with Chicago's Department of Family and Support Services to help people experiencing homelessness on the transit system. And this is going to provide a lot of money. It's going to provide a nurse on the outreach team and at least 30 dedicated shelter beds. So we are going to bring in Angela Green, who is the DFSS commissioner, and Andrea Chapman, who's the managing deputy commissioner. First of all, thank you both for joining me today. I really do appreciate you.
Thank you for having us.
Of course. Angela, I'll start with you. Can you talk about these shelter beds and how that's going to make, obviously, I'd imagine a fairly big difference for those who are, sleeping around, a CTA?
And thank you for the question. I'm really encouraged by this partnership that we have with CTA because it recognizes that people who are experiencing homelessness, they're really our neighbors, they're our family members, right? And they deserve dignity and compassion and access to supportive services that they really need. As you mentioned, the CTA board just approved this new agreement that increased the investment amount for street outreach. And that will give our outreach teams more capacity to meet people where they are, to build those relationships and understand what they need and connect them to shelter and housing and services that they may need. They're also providing the additional resources for us to expand our non-congregate shelter, as you just mentioned, which gives people an option of having their own private room rather than sharing a space. And for some people, especially those who have experienced trauma, that privacy can make a real difference. And so for us, it's really about creating more opportunities for people to say yes to support.
And how quickly are those beds going to become available?
Well, we still have to go through an RFP process and
Sure.
make selections. So it's going to be a little time, but hopefully we'll be able to see something by the beginning of next year.
Sure. Andrea, can you walk us through what happens when an outreach worker encounters someone experiencing homelessness on a CTA train? Like, what are the protocols?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have designated outreach teams that work across the red and blue line for the CTA rail lines, and they're actually riding the trains. They're engaging with individuals that are experiencing homelessness and trying to connect them to support services, appropriate resources, but particularly shelter, because we want folks to have safe and dignified options in terms of shelter. So this expanded partnership is really crucial. So our outreach teams have a dedicated referral system for those 30 beds that CTA will be funding. So as they're engaging and they're connecting folks with resources, wraparound services, it could be medical support, it could be engaging around food access. But the biggest need that we see and why people do use the transit system is because they really need shelter. But they need shelter options that feel more supportive, as Commissioner Green mentioned. And non-congregate shelter beds are the beds that we know when we are engaging around support resources and services, those are the beds that most individuals are likely to accept. So this is really huge for us to be able to expand our non-congregate beds. So as our outreach teams are out trying to connect people with substance abuse counseling, mental health services, food, clothing, shelter is also a major component. And so now we'll be able to bring on some real quality shelter beds that will provide the safe, supportive access that people need in order for respite and for reset. So we're very excited about what our outreach teams will be able to do at the end of that engagement. There's also this very needed resource of non-congregate shelter.
These resources and services, are they available for, across sort of all CTA lines? Are you determining, well, the blue line needs this more than the red line, but the red line needs this more than the orange line? How do you guys decide, where these services should go?
That's actually the funding comes from CTA, and they determine the lines that need support based off of their data, their resource, and their experience with their rail lines. And right now, they currently fund our outreach teams to be on the red and blue lines only. We do hope that in the future we are able to expand and grow the partnership across all the CTA rail lines. But right now, this pilot program that started in 2023 started with the support where it was most needed, which was determined by CTA and their leadership team, and that was for red and blue line.
You mentioned, 2023, sort of this partnership beginning. Have you guys noticed already people sort of transitioning into permanent housing? Have you noticed a difference already?
Yeah, and Commissioner Green could really speak to that as well. But what we've noticed is across the red and blue line since 2023, our outreach teams have had nearly 50,000 outreach encounters with people experiencing homelessness on those two rail lines. We've done 415 shelter placements into shelters for people on red and blue line that are experiencing homelessness. We've had 224 individuals off the red and blue line move to permanent supportive housing or take up housing options, and we're continuing to actively engage around folks that are still utilizing the transit system for shelter to continue to grow in those areas of shelter placement and housing support.
Commissioner Green, what are the biggest challenges the outreach teams face when you're trying to move someone from a train or a station into a shelter?
Honestly, is ensuring that they have the right type of housing options for them and shelter options for them. Sometimes people are really comfortable in certain communities and they want shelter in the community they feel safe in, and we don't always have that. So this expanding this non-congregate setting for our individuals experience housing gives us more opportunities to be able to provide different places within the city that people feel comfortable. So that's one of the major concerns that people have.
And can you talk to us about the nurse that's going to be available, I believe, on the red line? And there's an obvious value to that, but maybe what some of the responsibilities that he or she might have?
Those responsibilities will be determined by the agency that actually will staff the that nurse. And what we're wanting to do is just increase clinical support. A large part of where we need support in terms of the housing access really comes from disability assessments and eligibility, and the nurse will be able to do some of those assessments to help folks get access to benefits and housing that is very specific to disability eligibility, but they'll also be able to provide clinical support around medication access because they will connect to larger clinics and support teams that will be within the delegate agency that we're funding within their network. But the clinical aspect of this really is around not just behavioral health or substance abuse, but it is also around support with benefit access and eligibility that we need clinicians to be able to certify so that people can continue to access all available public benefits and resources that are available.
I tend to ask this question whenever there are, it's a situation where resources and services are being brought together for a positive purpose. And I'd love for both of you to answer. For each of you, what does success look like in regards to this program? What is it? Is it getting the homeless men and women into a shelter and into that next step in their life? Is it a cleaning up of the CTA? Like what is it that you could look at and go, this succeeded?
For me, ultimately, this partnership is about really meeting people where they are and treating people with dignity and connecting them to the support that they need. That to me is success. Creating more pathways to stability for our individuals experiencing homelessness. That's success for me.
I'd also agree with that, right? As we look at what success looks like, the success is really person-centered. The success of an engagement could be that, our outreach teams engaged and tried to have a conversation on 10 occasions with an individual and was rejected. But that 11th time, they're actually willing to have the conversation or accept, even if it's a blanket or it's relationship building. So it's very person-centered. So what success looks like for the individual experiencing homelessness and meeting their need and meeting them where they are. So this blanket success for the program really is for us more about engagement, relationship building, but the collaboration and partnership with CTA, that continued investment and support of individuals experiencing homelessness, and doing this as city sister agencies to really expand the capacity to meet the need. That is success in and of itself as well. But for the actual individuals experiencing homelessness, success can vary. What we might see as the North Star or the end goal for a person experiencing homelessness across our city or the CTA rail lines may be different than what that individual sees as success. So making sure that we are honoring their choices, their right to decide, and their right to participate in their care and make the decisions that feel right for them. Sometimes success is just being able to connect them to a resource or have that conversation. And our teams are committed to continued engagement, and CTA and DFSS are both committed to expanding partnership and resources available. So as people do make the choice that is best for them, we have the appropriate resources to support those choices.
Well, yeah, I wanted to sort of follow up on that. You were talking about treating people with dignity and then also respecting people's choices. How do you balance encouraging people to accept these resources and these services while also understanding that there are some people that are just not going to want these resources? There are some people who are not going to want the beds or the shelters that you're offering. Where is that balance between the two?
And it's honestly respecting individual choice. Recognizing that people have the ability to self-determine. And for me, I always say, they may say no 15 times, but the 16th time they may be open. And so we're going to continue to be out there. We're going to continue to offer support. It is not always the first time that we provide, the resources that people take it up. It's building that trust. It's knowing that you're going to be consistent, knowing that the place that they're going to go to, they're going to be safe. So we honestly honor people opportunity to make their own decision. We respect that. But what I've told my team continuously, our job is to make sure that we're constantly out there providing the resources that they need and making sure we're offering that at every turn.
Understood. Angela Green, Andrea Chapman, thank you both for joining us on Chicago Live today. We really do appreciate you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Of course.
Thank you.
All right, guys, just about 1:15. Lots more to come here on Chicago Live. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Chicago Live. Much more to come over the rest of the show. It's 1:17. I'm your host, Jake Hamilton. Listen, obviously, we are constantly on this show, as is the point of the show, checking in on things happening in and around our city, giving you local news in a way that no one else is doing it. But there is always value in checking in with other Fox stations, other markets, just to know what it is that they're dealing with, understand sometimes the differences in our cities, and oftentimes how we share similarities, maybe more often than we think. We're going to bring in my friend of the show, Detroit legend. They're chiseling the statue as we speak. Ronya's back on the show. First of all, how are you? Good to see you.
I gotta say, your intros are amazing. I feel so special. Thank you, Jake. How are you?
I like to start there because then when you start talking to me and you realize it goes downhill, you can go, well, at least the intro was nice.
All right, let's get ready to roast Jake.
Yeah, trust me, you're gonna have to get in line for that. I do have a big question for you. Because last time we spoke, I gave you a hard time about having not seen The Odyssey yet. And it wasn't that long after that I came into my desk in the newsroom and found a little gift from you, which is this amazing Odyssey pin, which is like Odysseus' little boat. Is this indicative of you having seen it, or did you just get some cool swag and sent it my way?
I got the cool swag. I shipped it your way. Lee Thomas and I, who's my friend, my colleague here at Fox 2, who you know very well, he got the swag. And I was like, oh my gosh, Jake loves this movie, and I have to send it to him. So I can't take all the credit because it was a little bit of Lee Thomas as well as producer Aaron, whose idea it was to ship it over, and I made it happen. So I'm glad you got it. You will be a little... You're probably going to grill me if I tell you this, but I haven't seen it yet.
I mean, you know, you've only had 3 weeks.
It's 3 hours.
Like, where do you have to be, Ronya?
I mean, listen, I'm a hockey mom. As soon as I get out of work, my time's completely occupied. But 3 hours, I got to find the time, but I promise you I will soon.
Listen, I'm not mad I'm just disappointed.
I know.
But okay. Now
But we'll
swap it around. You can give me assignment. Give me something to do that I can report on the next time.
I don't know.
I know. I put you on the spot.
What's going on in Chicago?
There is always something going on in Chicago, much like I'm sure there's always something going on in Detroit. How are the Lions looking?
Okay, so Lions are in their preseason. There's actually a preseason game this Saturday. Everything's looking good. I mean, Dan Campbell is ready to make the team. You know, he's pumping up the team. The players are ready. We are all ready. I got to tell you, I am so excited. We were just talking about this before we went to break here on our end. I have the Lions gear. I'm ready to go. But here's the thing. We're excited about the Lions. What's going on with the Bears? The Bears are moving. Are they changing names? Where are they going and what's happening?
Listen, it doesn't matter where in the world the Bears are. They will always be the pride and joy of Illinois. I mean, listen, keep in mind, whether they're here, whether they're in Indiana, they will always be the Chicago Bears. Keep in mind, there are two, not one, but two football teams in New York. And neither of them play in the state of New York. So, what are borders and names if not just labels? And I mean, everything's arbitrary in football, everything's temporary. Nothing's settled. We got a big press conference last week to let us know that they are looking at things across the border. But you know what? With a can-do attitude, I can get over into Indiana in about 15 minutes. So, you know what? They're still, and I got to tell you, we took down the Cleveland Browns last week, over the weekend, 34-10. And listen, we oftentimes bring our amazing sports team on the show, as I know you guys have an amazing sports team as well. And I the question I asked was, how much stock do you put, because my buddies, I don't know if your friends are the same way. If we win a preseason game, my phone's blowing up with a bunch of people that we're going to the Super Bowl. And if we lose a preseason game, my phone's blowing up with people going, that's it, we're done, season's over. And we haven't even started. Like you said, we're in preseason. We haven't even started yet. So, I mean, but our sports team says, well, don't put that much stock into preseason. It's not really indicative of really anything to come. We're not even playing most of the starters.
Yeah, I get it. And, we've already had some injuries, too.
Sure.
It's like, oh, my gosh, what's going on here? But we're all ready. We all want to make it happen. And so are the Chicago Bears staying the Bears, the Chicago Bears?
Oh, yeah. They'll always be the Bears, and they'll always be the Chicago Bears. I mean, where the only thing that'll change is the address that I know you secretly send your fan letters to. Instead of sending it to Soldier Field, you're going to send it to somewhere, maybe it's not settled yet, and maybe in Indiana. Ronnie, I have a big question for you. Is there a Fox 2 Detroit Fantasy Football League?
Oh, yes. However, it's kind of like, I don't know. I get in, but I don't even know what I'm doing. I just put the money in and I have someone just pick stuff for me. I don't know anything about that. And by the way, I lived in Vegas. I should know about gambling and fantasy football and all that. I don't know.
But here's the frustrating thing, Ronya. The type of person you're describing yourself as is, much to my frustration over 20 years of doing fantasy football, usually the person who wins. It's usually, in my experience, I've been in the same fantasy league with my buddies for since high school. And it's always like, we'll lose a guy and someone says, hey, we'll give my girlfriend a league, and she'll jump in and she'll draft based on, cool jersey colors or whatever, and she'll have a perfect season. And, we're putting, practice in, and we're doing research, and we do mock drafts. And so, honestly, someone such as yourself, I feel like you're talking down about yourself. You're the type of person who wins these things.
Everyone says that. Now, I haven't won. I haven't won yet.
Not with that attitude.
About 4 years. So, you know what? Maybe this is the year. Maybe you can help me. I don't know. I just don't know what I'm doing half the time.
I would like to say, sure, I'll definitely help you. Call me up. I got you. But you're also talking to someone who's never won. I've made it. I have made it to the championship a time or two, but I've never had our fantasy football trophy on a shelf. So maybe I'm not the guy you want to talk to.
No, you know what? But there's a first time for everything. So this is the year. Maybe this is the year.
You know what? Now you are starting to sound like a Bears fan. This is the year. This is the year. I got this.
Wait, are we rolling on this in Detroit? I'm going to get in trouble.
No, it's fine. It's just you and me talking. What's going on with your skyline?
Detroit's watching. Okay, so the Renaissance building. RenCen, a very important building here in Detroit. It is the skyline. This is our skyline. We used to have the General Motors staff working out of the building. They've moved. After they moved, now there's a question about what do we do with all these buildings because there's multiple towers. Well, the obvious answer to a lot of us Detroiters is to keep the buildings the way they are and maybe bring other entities in to, work out of the building. Well, now they're talking about demolishing 2 of the towers. Some people are saying, no way, this is our skyline. Others are saying, I'm ready for the new. Now, the question is, do we start looking like a Chicago skyline? I mean, you guys have a lot going on. What are your thoughts, and what building really makes Chicago, I mean, I already know this, but what makes Chicago skyline so significant?
I mean, the history of Sears Tower, yes, I know technically it's Willis, but we're going to go ahead and call it Sears. And then I would say, if I were to point out...
I've always called it Sears.
That's because that's what it is, but we're supposed to say Willis Tower because that's what's on the side of the building now. In the same way that, I don't think we're supposed to call it Hancock anymore. We're supposed to call it by the address, but
yeah.
We've got, Sears and Hancock, I think, are sort of the quintessential, if you're in the middle of the lake looking west, that's what you're going to stand out. And I always use the opening. This might be dating myself, and there might be a lot of people watching that are asking, what are you talking about? But the opening credits of the classic TGIF sitcom Family Matters was such a great that sweeping shot over the lake. They kind of pushed in. It was kind of like that. It was a little bit further north and then it pushed in. There's our skyline. And then, of course, we've got a little bit closer to the ground. Again, tying it to a pop culture reference. We've got Buckingham Fountain, which is, then we've got the, which is huge, in the, we've got, there you go. Done. See, these are all.
Well, Jake, I will tell you. The plans to overhaul this Detroit riverfront, they want to make it look like Chicago's Navy Pier. So, I'm totally for. I am in.
Listen, I love Navy Pier. It is very much, I will say, they've got all kind of fun things over there, and it's a great spot. We walk our dogs around there, and there's always kind of fun tourist things, and we got the Ferris wheel. It's just a great shot. It ties into what we call sort of that summertime shy, that sort of that quintessential vibe, that quintessential feeling. If you're looking for a great sort of summer image of Chicago, there's a good chance at some point, if you're Googling that Navy Pier and the Ferris wheel, that entire image is going to come up. So how much of the skyline or some of the things you're talking about are behind you?
Well, so this is the GM Center. Well, it used to be the GM. So this is the RenCen right here. However, this photo is a little tweaked. Just to make it look a little nice on air. But I will say, if I could say, there are 2 other towers that you can't see here. So those are the towers that are in question on whether or not they are going to be replaced. And I don't know. I like the new and the revamped, revitalized Detroit, the new Hudson Tower. I don't know if you've seen that. It's a beautiful building. But giving up on something that brought so much history is tough.
I know we have just a couple of seconds left. Where are they in construction of Shimona Tower?
Oh, we're ready to be built. Who's building? Who's the developer?
Are you kidding me? They should have built this years ago. What are they talking about? People are waiting.
I'm all for it. I want some rides on that thing. Let's put a roller coaster up there. Make it like a stratosphere.
It sounds like you're rebuilding like Castle or what is it? Like New York and Vegas or something, which I'm all for.
I'm all for. Boy, Mom.
Sold. Ronya Shimona, always great to check in with you. I love that I get to do this segment. You're the absolute best. And for the love of you, have 7 days. Go see the Odyssey. It's only 3 hours.
I will.
But you've got, I can't do math quickly.
Promises.
You've got 24 times 7. You can do this. I believe in you.
Okay.
Tell the bosses,
crossed.
your news director said it's fine. You can take 3 hours off and go watch it. We're good.
You know what? I'm ready to go.
Sold.
If that's the case, I'm going.
Sold. Yeah. Tell them it's research. It's research, and
there you
there you go. Good to see you. Take care.
Good to see you, my friend.
All right, I always love getting to check in with the folks over at Fox 2 Detroit. Again, like you said, you know what? Sometimes it's nice to just check in with another market to find out what's going on differently, but also what's the same. It's almost 1:30. Much more to come. Chicago Live rolls on. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. 1:32 on Chicago Live. Obviously, it wasn't that long ago where the biggest story that was dominating the headlines, the unbelievable weather that was blowing through our area, having massive and oftentimes devastating impact on the people who had to endure it. And we're still talking, still thinking of our friends in Northwest Indiana, many of whom are still dealing with power outages and dealing with the repercussions of these storms that have long since blown through. The ASW Foundation is actually stepping in Sunday in Gary with a free dinner, some desserts, a little food, some hygiene supplies for families in need. And we're going to bring in Aaliyah Stewart, the founder of ASW Foundation. Aaliyah, thank you for taking the time. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me. God is the greatest. We look forward to sharing information and making sure our community is heard.
I love that. Can you talk to me about, listen, 8 days without power is a long time. What are you hearing from the families and just with what it is that they're going through right now?
A lot of our families are just going through, poverty and just being in a minority-stricken area and just trying to figure out how to get the resources that are needed for our community and get them to the people who cannot drive, who cannot make it to the areas that we're having these events. How can we cater to them? So I partner with some amazing people that are on the flyer, and we're putting together something major, making sure that people have garbage bags to clean up. It's trees down. It's just without power, just making sure people don't fall into depression. We're trying to keep that hope and keep that energy flowing back into our city.
What made you decide that ASW Foundation needed to step in and organize this event?
So we've always been hands-on on the ground. It wasn't just myself, but just some of those amazing partners that we have on the flyer. Last week, myself and Safe Space hosted a giveaway. We did 100 waters and fed 100 people, and it grew to a point where we wanted to help way more people. And we've had so many amazing organizations reach out and tap in with us to make sure that they're coming with us to do the work that we need to do. Project Hood, Cotis, INJs, Well, Safe Space, just so many organizations, Myers, Project, it's just expanded to something super amazing. So we want to make sure that the city of Gary is being heard, that people see that we're here, we're on the ground, we're getting it done, and we want to make sure that they're getting help.
Aaliyah, what are some of the biggest needs that you're seeing right now? Is it food? Is it water? Is it hygiene products? Is it cleaning supplies? What are you hearing the people need the most?
I would say hygiene. Our mayor, our politicians, our community leaders, nonprofits, churches, just regular citizens have done an amazing job with getting food and water out. I would definitely say flashlights, chargers, just figuring out ways to get them detergent. We have kids that will be returning back to school that's lost some of their clothes. So we did prepare an Amazon wish list that on all social media platforms, you can find us at HOPE_ASW, and the items can be shipped directly to us for us to be able to give out. So garbage bags to pick up different garbage, but mainly just necessities as far as hygiene and things like that all are welcomed.
And talk to me about the event on Sunday in Gary. What can people expect when they come out?
So my partner came to me last Sunday out to East, and she was telling me how, everyone's been doing the barbecue and things like that, but we want to give people that homegrown feeling. We want to give them that love and just pour back into them and let them know that God will soon bring the joy. The lights will come back on, and so we want to make sure that they're able to come out and get a warm meal. So we'll have food trucks. So many different organizations came to help us, and it's growing, and we're super grateful. So Sunday at 3:00, we'll be at 660 Washington in Gary, Indiana, and we're super grateful, and we're going all out. We're looking to service over 500 people, and the way that God is moving, we definitely feel the overflow and being able to enlarge and do way more.
In addition to ASW, you're partnering with several organizations, right? What are some additional resources that families are going to be able to connect with?
So Myers will be donating some perishable items. The home care company, INJ, they'll be donating different items for family. Project Hood will be bringing towels and soap. We're trying to get everybody what they need. We're trying to get supplies sent in from other organizations in Chicago that have reached out as far as towels and Band-Aids and just different things like that. Even clothing, gift cards from different stores to make sure that the kids that have lost their items can get their stuff so that they can return back and get the education that they deserve.
We have a lot of really amazing viewers who watch the show, very selfless giving viewers who watch this show. For someone watching who says, hey, I got a little bit extra, I could help. Can you point them in the right direction? Can you let people know how, maybe even if they can't make it out this weekend, how they can still help out?
We definitely appreciate all support. They can visit our website, aswimthem.org. Again, aswimthem.org. On all social media platforms, hope_ASW, and they can find the Amazon link and our website link for them to be able to make a donation.
What message do you have? I mean, listen, anyone who that's dealing with this, all of our friends in Northwestern Indiana, this far along, it's tough to hear any sort of words of encouragement and take it to heart and move along with it. But what message would you give people who might be listening, who this video might get to, that are still dealing with all of this?
The race is not given to the swift, but those who trust and endure to the end. Just keep trusting God even when you can't trace him, even in times where you don't understand exactly what's happening. And that's why we feel like we're here to make sure it's not even about people donating funds or just donating money, but your time. Even if someone DMs me and sends a positive message for us to share with the family, that's worth $1 million. A lot of these families are going through it, and I just want my city to stay encouraged. And my blood, sweat, and tears will be out there Sunday, along with everyone that's partnered with us, the R&B Social, everyone. We just want to make sure that they're getting the wellness by Tati. Everything is just going great so that we're able to do what we need to do for the city of Gary.
Aaliyah, I'd imagine you finding just a couple of minutes to stop what you're doing and just have this conversation is causing a massive disruption in your schedule. What's the next couple of days look like for you leading into this event on Sunday?
Boots on the ground.
Boots on the ground.
We had an amazing private donor, Q Smith, that donated over $500 worth of food, 200 pounds of chicken. So just getting more necessities that's needed. It's never enough stuff. It's never enough items. So we want to make sure that we're able, what if we can help 1,000 people rather than 500 families? So my goal until Sunday is to make sure that I'm getting out there advocating for my people, making sure my people's voices are being heard, and that the city of Gary is a gym, and that people know that amazing people and amazing things come from Gary, Indiana.
I bring this quote up a lot, but there's the old Mr. Rogers quote that says, in the tough times, you always look for the helpers, and they're the good people are always going to show up. Listen, looking ahead, you don't ever want to assume that horrible things like this are going to happen, but inevitably, things do happen. Situations might occur where ASW Foundation is needed in the future. What is the best way for someone to get in touch with you guys, stay in touch with you guys? God forbid, hopefully, these situations, these sort of events like this weekend are not needed. But if they are, how do they get in touch with you guys?
Our website, which is aswiamthem.org. They can reach us by phone, which is 219-238-9996. That quote is amazing. I started this nonprofit at 14. I'm 25 now, and I feel that wisdom doesn't come with age. It comes with life and experience and being selfless. So as long as I can instill that into my people, even if this never occurs again, I'm sure there'll be another challenge that we'll be able to conquer.
Did you say you started this when you were 14?
Yes.
What were you, when I was 14, I was downloading songs on Napster and playing video games with my friends. What inspired you to create this when you were 14?
I started my nonprofit in honor of my two brothers that were killed. I felt like there wasn't a club. Thank you. God has been most faithful. There wasn't a club for people that had lost siblings to fit into, so I decided to create one. So we started with ASW. We grew into I Am Them, which means I am my youth, letting them know no matter what you go through or where you come from, you have potential. We are a violence prevention organization, but we make sure that we don't just strive to work with violence prevention, but we're there for the community as a whole. So I knew that God had a greater purpose for me, and I've made a vow for my entire life to make sure that my purpose that God has given me is known.
Obviously, I'm sure you have a lot of stories from people who have been affected, who've been impacted by ASW Foundation. What has it done for you over the course of 11 years?
It's given me life. This
How
is
so?
my life. This is the air that I breathe. I'm a foster parent to two amazing children, so I take my work from the community into my home. I don't just do the work, I live the work. And I make sure that the work can never consume me because it's something that I'm growing in each and every day. ASW has given me light in my darkest moments, because at moments that I didn't have hope for myself, hearing different stories, people telling me how we have an annual toy giveaway, how I bless them, and then they come back and have a full circle moment. One of our private donors with the food, last year I helped her with her children at our toy giveaway. She said I told her to take as much as she needed. I don't remember that encounter, but I try to be the same person all the time. So making sure that I'm consistent. We all fall short, but it's about getting back up to make sure you get your purpose done.
Aaliyah, this is not a thing I normally do on this show, but just because you seem awesome, do you want to say hello, give a shout out to your two awesome children?
Yes, I love my boys. Actually, today is one of my son's 17th birthday.
Come on.
So happy birthday, Kinley.
Happy birthday, Kinley.
You rock.
All right. Best of luck for the event this weekend. Continued success with ASW Foundation. And please keep us updated here on Chicago Live, because if you're able to accomplish all of this in 11 years, God knows what you're going to do for the next 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years of your life.
Thank you.
Congratulations, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.
All right, take care. All right, guys. It is just about 1:44 on Chicago Live. Much more to come here on the show, but don't go anywhere. There's our beautiful Cloud Gate, a.k.a. The Bean, and a lot of people enjoying taking those selfies. Much more to come. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back. 146 on Chicago Live. Much more to come for the rest of the show. We have a lot of amazing guests lined up and some very interesting topics that we are going to be tackling. Next up, Northwestern University maternal depression expert Darius Tandon weighing in on renewed attention to postpartum mental health following the recent news involving actress Hayden Panettiere and the ongoing Lindsay Clancy case. We're going to bring in Darius to talk more about it. Darius, thank you for taking the time this afternoon. We do appreciate you.
My pleasure. Happy to be here.
Of course. Can you explain the difference between postpartum depression and postpartum psychosis?
Sure. Postpartum depression is quite common. 12 to 20% of individuals experience postpartum depression, which is depression in the first year after delivery. Compare that with postpartum psychosis, which is a much more acute and much more rare event. We are talking less than 1% of the population will develop postpartum psychosis. Unfortunately, those are extremely notable instances where somebody is suffering from postpartum psychosis, which is why we get the media attention with cases like Lindsay Clancy, et cetera. But there is a fundamental distinction, again, with postpartum psychosis being much more rare.
Aside from someone being postpartum, are there other factors that signify if a particular individual is at risk for either one of these?
Sure. So we know that if someone has experienced depression in their lifetime, they are more likely to experience postpartum depression. And this is also a pattern that we see in the opposite direction, that if you have postpartum depression, you are much more likely, in fact, 50 to 60% of individuals who experience postpartum depression will then experience depression again outside of the postpartum period. So really important to be thinking about depression, not just in the postpartum period, but also what happens beyond, because we know, especially for those who are affected by postpartum in that first year after delivery, there's a good chance that those depressive symptoms are going to continue after baby turns 1 year of age.
Obviously, these are topics that are very much in the headlines right now because of some very high-profile stories that are in the news. So what are the advantages and the disadvantages of these sort of stories blowing up the way they have, these sort of discussions being had? Because it does sound like it gives us the opportunity to maybe clarify some things about both. But then I'd imagine also you're kind of working defense, because I'd imagine there's a lot of misinformation that's getting spread around about these topics.
Yeah, that's really well said, Jake. I do think that it does provide us an opportunity, and thank you for having me and bringing this, issue to your, viewers. I do think opportunities where media attention is given to postpartum depression is a good thing, because we do need to have more awareness. I would say if I was on the show with you 10 years ago, postpartum depression was not getting a lot of attention. So I think we are actually doing a much better job of highlighting the importance and paying attention to it. But again, it is so common. It is a very common issue for women who have just delivered. And we need to really be sort of paying attention to it on an ongoing basis, whether it would be, by screening at the OB or pediatric clinic, thinking about ways to provide support to individuals. So yes, it's great that there is more attention being placed, because it does give us an opportunity to remind ourselves that this is such a precarious time for so many individuals, and we need to do so much to support them.
You mentioned near the beginning of our conversation that sort of the impact of postpartum depression, I think you'd mentioned, is that it can be a year after the child is born. And I feel like, unfortunately, we live in this world where, a woman gives birth, and then it's like, okay, cool, let's go. Let's get back to your life. Let's get back to things as normal. And it shouldn't be. That there's an understanding that we're talking about, changes that are happening for, like you said, up to a year, and maybe even more so.
Absolutely. We like to talk about in our work that first year after childbirth, there are so many what we call role changes or role transitions, right? You have a new kiddo in the home. There are new stressors associated with that. So certainly that first year postpartum comes with all sorts of changes with having that, newborn in the home. But things are also important to be attended to beyond, the child's first birthday. So yes, there are ongoing sources of stress. So the stressors that might exist in that first year postpartum, maybe those change a little bit. But, as, your child is getting older, there are new sources of stress and new things that you might need to be supported, as you are, taking on that role of being a parent. So we definitely want to pay attention to folks in that first year. But going back to a point I made earlier, we know that if you're suffering that first year postpartum, you're going to be likely to have some issues after that first year. So again, really paying attention to what we can be doing to support, mothers and families in the first year after delivery, but also beyond.
And I'd imagine for a lot of mothers, particularly right after the child is born, there's got to be this pressure to be happy, and you're a new mother, and all these, and it's not to say that the happiness shouldn't exist. Obviously it should, but that's a lot of pressure for everyone to tell you just be happy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We sometimes, refer to it as, the super mom complex, right? You're going to be able to do everything. You're going to be able to do everything, in an excellent fashion. And that's just not realistic, right? For many individuals. And so I think, providing, folks the space to say, and to realize that, yeah, I may not be able to do everything that I was previously able to do. I think that there is a lot, of pressure, again, to sort of be this sort of super mom doing everything for everybody. And what happens? What happens is mom does not pay attention to her own emotional health and her own needs. And so again, that's a lot of the work that we do, really trying to get folks to realize that, hey, it's really important to pay attention to yourself and to do things for yourself and to ask other individuals to also help you manage the stress that you have.
That's what I wanted to ask. For someone who sees these symptoms, whether it be in someone else or maybe even themselves, what's step number one?
Listen. Make sure you're listening. If you know somebody has a history in particular, they are likely to be going through something. So really listening, whether it's in that first year postpartum or beyond, but also encouraging some very sort of brief, tangible strategies, right? So we do a lot of work to promote healthy behaviors and behaviors that are enjoyable, that might improve your mood. I mean, it's really hard when you're struggling with depression to do that first sort of pleasurable activity, whether it's, listening to some music, going for a walk, even sort of scrolling through your, Instagram feed for sort of funny videos. But we really want to encourage folks to do things that are going to improve their mood, because if they don't, that's when we sort of, see folks sort of spiraling with that sort of poor mental health. So it's really important to, listen to individuals, but encourage individuals to engage in behaviors that are going to improve their mood, or encourage them to do those things with you. So, go for a walk with somebody, have a short conversation with somebody as a way of improving their mood. So we really need to pay attention, again, beyond that first year postpartum, because we know, and again, we are seeing this in the news right now, that depression and some of the struggles from depression are going to continue.
We mentioned near the beginning of our talk about whenever a topic becomes a popular talking point in the news cycle, that inevitably it births all these sort of misconceptions about it. What are the biggest misconceptions you would like to leave people, whether it be postpartum depression or postpartum, just postpartum mental health, the misconceptions that people need to be made aware of?
You are not crazy if you are suffering from postpartum depression. It is very common. It is very natural to be experiencing sources of stress and feeling, depressed in that postpartum period. So the first thing that I want to dispel is this idea that there is something wrong with individuals, right? We just know, again, with that role change, with having the new child, there's just a lot of stress. And so I really want to dispel, this idea that something is wrong with an individual. Sure, somebody might have depressive, symptoms, but that is something that certainly can be managed. I think the other thing that I really want to, again, sort of, double down on is, this over sensationalization of, postpartum psychosis. And we need to be really careful not to sort of, lump all sort of postpartum depression into that sort of psychosis category. It is far more common for somebody to experience, depressive symptoms and postpartum psychosis. So, again, I think we really want to be careful about how much we are sort of, labeling individuals, and labeling them perhaps incorrectly, because it is far more common that somebody's going to experiencing postpartum depression than psychosis.
It goes back to that expression, which I like a lot. It is okay to not be okay. Darius Tandon, a fascinating conversation, an important conversation. I appreciate you taking your time out of the day to chat with us.
Thanks again. We really appreciate the time.
All right, take care. All right, guys, just about 2 o'clock. It's 1:57. A lot more to come here on Chicago Live as we look out live to our beautiful skyline, our beautiful lake. There's Lincoln Park out there. Look at that. Absolutely. I need a friend with a boat. If you have a boat, let us know. All right, much more to come here on Chicago Live. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Just about 2 o'clock here on Chicago Live. We have much more coming up on the show over the next 2 hours before we get to Fox 32 News at 4 o'clock with Terrence Lee and Anita Blanton. When we come back in the 2 o'clock hour, we're going to be talking about International Overdose Awareness Day that is approaching in just a couple of days. Parents being urged to talk with their children about the dangers of illicit drugs and fentanyl. We're going to be talking with the executive director of Victoria's Voice Foundation. Also, we are going to continue to talk about all the people in our area who continue to be impacted by that ripple effect of those devastating storms that blew through last week and the power outages that are still very much impacting people. There is We're going to talk with a guest who is actually leading a coalition of faith leaders, elected officials, and nonprofits. They're going to provide some emergency assistance today to residents in East Chicago that are still impacted by those widespread power outages. Also, let's take a live look outside. After so many days of taking these shots and having them be impossible to see through because of the storms, seeing dark clouds on the horizon, seeing people huddled under the beam trying to escape the rain. It's nice to be able to take these shots and actually see some sunshine, actually see the sky, actually be able to see our beautiful skyline. We're going to bring in Chief Meteorologist Emily Walls, to talk about the amazing weather that we have and how long it's going to last. Oh, look at that. We don't get that shot. What is that? Is that the Kennedy, guys? Yeah, we don't get to take that shot very often. Like I said, we get daily morning emails from our meteorologists letting us know what's in store for the day, and I believe Mike Kaplan's today described it as one of the best days so far this summer. That's a live shot out at, we got the screen down, that's why it's that little hazy in front of it. But that's the corner. Oh, that was a nice shot. Let's see, what do we got there? Oh, there's Lake Point Tower, and there's a little look at Streeterville with Navy Pier in the distance. Lots of folks out there having a great time, enjoying. Look at all the boats to the north side of Navy Pier. Must be nice. Got to get a friend with a boat. We're going to bring in Emily Walls to ask just if we can enjoy this for a moment. Can we take a moment and breathe? Is there anything on the horizon that we need to be made aware of? She'll have the answers. She'll know before I always feel like we get to steal her away from Fox 32 News at 4 and 5 because we kind of get her forecast before she delivers it there. So we're going to be talking with her at about 2:45. So that's coming up. But for now, we're going to run to a quick break. Just about 2:03. Much more to come on Chicago Live. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back. Welcome back to Chicago Live. I'm your host, Jake Hamilton. Just after 2:05, International Overdose Awareness Day is approaching on August 31st. Parents are going to be urged to talk with their children about the dangers of illicit drugs and fentanyl. Victoria's Voice Foundation says that counterfeit pills can contain deadly amounts of fentanyl, and that a new study finds that many 8th graders underestimate the risk. We're going to bring in Leah Shepard, who's the executive director of Victoria's Voice Foundation. Leah, thank you for taking the time. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Of course. What concerns you the most about what young people understand or maybe don't understand about fentanyl right now?
I think they really don't understand, and it's the DEA's tagline, and it's the truth is that one pill can kill. Kids in this generation have access to substances that we didn't have a decade ago, 2 decades ago, as it relates to prescription medications and social media access, being able to purchase and access drugs through social media channels. And so there's really, because the accessibility is so much greater than it was in younger and older generations, they just don't understand the dangers that exist that one pill really can kill.
You know, that's we're talking about sort of 8th graders and an 8th grader's view on fentanyl, and I think that alone is shocking to me, or maybe it's naive of me to be surprised that 8th graders have a view of fentanyl. Like, is it? Are we talking? I mean, what is the age that that these kids are starting to use such things?
Well, it's never too early for parents to start conversations with their children about substance use, regardless of whether it's fentanyl, marijuana, which has become so mainstream. So it's never too early, really, even in elementary school, to start conversations. Kids are probably going to talk to you about things that they hear in school. Perhaps a friend or a student in their school was caught possessing drugs. There's stories on the news. So there's always opportunities to open that door. But I don't know that anything starting in elementary school with tentative conversations, it's never too early to start talking to your kids about it. They're exposed to it at early ages now.
How do you start a conversation like that?
I think it's, again, there's always an entree because of either something that's in the news or perhaps something that's happened in that child's school. But it's really letting kids know that there's an open line of communication, setting clear expectations to them. And in this house, we don't do drugs. Just don't wait until it's too late. Don't wait until you think your child is using drugs to start that conversation with them. And as I mentioned, the expectations are in this house, we don't do drugs, and letting them know, don't take something that wasn't prescribed to you. Don't take something because a friend says it's safe or they tell you that it's Adderall. You don't know what's in that pill. And that's where these counterfeit pills that are laced with fentanyl are really doing the most damage to kids these days.
Yeah, I was going to ask, how common are these counterfeit pills?
They're pervasive, and they've really infiltrated the drug cartels and drug problem here in this country. And so from a percentage standpoint, you really want to tell kids that there's 100% chance that anything that they take that was not prescribed to them by a doctor or given to them by their parents could kill them.
What warning signs should parents be watching for if they begin to suspect that their child might be using drugs?
Sure. Some of the most common behavioral changes that parents will see are isolation. The child will start putting themselves in their room, closing doors, not talking to their parents, coming home from school and going straight to their room. It can be a change in their grades dropping. Your kid was a straight A student. Now all of a sudden they're getting C's and D's. Changes in friends. They're either not hanging out with the same peer group that they used to, or there's friends coming over and you're not familiar with them. You don't know who the parents are. And weight loss, sudden weight loss, it can also be a sign that your child may be experimenting with different substances.
Leah, you're recommending that families have, and forgive me if I'm mispronouncing this, is it naloxone?
Naloxone, yes, which is commonly known as Narcan, yes.
Okay. Gotcha. Can you explain the significance of that and the importance of, especially if you're starting to suspect that your child might be using drugs, the impact that has?
Absolutely. So naloxone was approved by the FDA back in 1971. It's an opioid reversal substance. So if you've ever had surgery, your anesthesiologist has had naloxone in the surgery room since 1971. It's now available. The FDA approved it for over-the-counter use in 2023. So you can buy it at any drugstore, grocery store. It's very easy to get. Why you should have it is because it's easy to administer. It's a nasal spray. It's no different than putting Flonase or anything else in the nostril. And you just don't know what your child or the kid in the back seat of your car has been exposed to. It has an immediate response. If it's not an overdose, if you're wrong and perhaps the child is having a seizure or somebody's having a heart attack, there's no damage. It doesn't do any damage to you if you're not having an overdose, but it gives you enough time to get that person to an emergency room and get the treatment that they need.
What mistakes do you think parents make when attempting to have these difficult conversations with their kids?
I think the biggest mistake is to simply not have the conversation, to be afraid to talk to your child, or the biggest mistake that parents make is not my child. Well, over 70,000 people died from drug overdose deaths last year. They were somebody's child, so it can be your child. The biggest mistake is to simply not open that door and sit down with your child and talk to them about it.
You know, I'd imagine an average school day, you know, maybe a parent sees their child for an hour in the morning and then maybe a couple hours in the afternoon into the evening. But for a large portion of the day, a parent's child is with friends, is with, you know, teachers, with, you know, they're away from them. How important is it to have a better understanding of what's going on within those 8 hours? Because I know, you know, oftentimes you ask a kid when they come home, how was your day? And you'll get, oh, it was fine. But,
Right.
you know, it's, I'd imagine you have to break through the fine.
You do. We actually have some tips to that on our website. If you go to victoriasvoice.org, we have a program called Vital Signs, and it's free for parents. It's free for anyone. And it has 8 different modules of conversation starters that you can have with your kids to talk to them about smoking, vaping, mental health, sexual behavior, substance use. And it really, they're small, quick 3 to 5 minute videos that you can do one a day on your phone. And it gives parents some ideas of ways to start those conversations with your kids. And I encourage anyone to do that. There's no, it's hard for parents to have those conversations. They're afraid they're going to alienate their child. Some parents are afraid, well, if I talk to my kids about drugs, then maybe that opens the door and they'll start doing them. If you're setting clear expectations that we're a household that doesn't do drugs, and also let your child know you're not going to get in trouble. If you're at a party and people are doing drugs and you don't feel safe there, call me. I'll come get you. You're not going to get in trouble. Let your child know it's safe to talk to you about it.
Leah, throughout this segment, we've talked a lot about Victoria's Voice Foundation. Who is Victoria?
Victoria Siegel is an 18-year-old woman, young girl living in Orlando, Florida. Her parents are David and Jackie Siegel. He's a hospitality executive in Orlando, and she died of an accidental drug overdose in June of 2015. And at the time, first responders were not carrying Narcan. It wasn't as commonplace as it is now. When they arrived at her house, she had a pulse, but didn't make it. And her parents, David and Jackie, believed that had the first responders been carrying Narcan, she'd still be with us today. And so the foundation started with the mission of seeing to it that no other parents experience the same loss that they did, and getting really robust and effective drug education programs in the hands of parents and kids and communities across the country.
For families who do need help, where can they turn to? Where can they get more information?
For programs and resources in Chicago, or really any city, if you go to victoriasvoice.org, we have listings of different, whether it's rehabilitation centers, crisis counseling, mental health resources that in most communities anyone can access as needed.
And if you could tell every parent, let's imagine every parent was watching this show and was listening to what you were saying about just what's going on in the world today, particularly in regards to the accessibility of these types of drugs and the dangers behind them, what is the message that you would most want to try to drive home?
They're everywhere, and nobody wants to be a fearmonger, but if you think that your child can't access illicit drugs or something that has been poisoned with fentanyl, you're wrong. Your child can access them any day, any school, any church, any community center, any neighborhood, any park. They're out there, and so you have to be vigilant on a regular basis.
Leah Shepard, Executive Director of Victoria's Voice Foundation. Leah, a very, very important topic. Thank you for breaking it down for us and for giving us this information. We appreciate you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Of course. All right, guys, it is just about 2:15 here on Chicago Live. Much, much more to come when we come back. There's a beautiful, beautiful shot of our gorgeous blue skies, our beautiful skyline, a little beach. There's our skyline just from a different angle. We're going to have Emily up here in about half an hour to let us know, are these blue skies going to continue? Will people be able to still meander around the bean and not try to get underneath to hide from the rain? It's gorgeous out there, but for how much longer? We'll find out in just a couple of minutes right here on Chicago Live. Welcome back to Chicago Live. Just about 2:18 on the show, but we still have much more to get to. And it is a story worth covering from multiple different angles, because those storms that blew through our area over a week ago continue to have an impact on a lot of people. And just because the storms move on, just because it feels like sometimes that the story moves on, it doesn't mean that the people who are left in its wake can just immediately pick back up and start living their lives. There are still a lot of people in our area who are without power, who are without resources, who are without help. And there are a lot of people who are trying to change that. There are a lot of people who are still saying, hey, the work is not done yet. In fact, for a lot of people, the work is just beginning. We are constantly talking with people who are working to try to get their power back. We are constantly working with people who are trying to find resources, whether it be food, whether it be water, whether it be hygiene products. So we are talking with people who are organizing events. We just spoke with a young woman, 25 years old, started an organization when she was 14 that is going to be out in Gary on Sunday this weekend, and she's going to be helping people. She's bringing in a lot of resources. She was a fantastic guest. In just a couple of minutes, we were actually going to be joined by Bishop Tavis Grant, who is leading a coalition of faith leaders and elected officials and nonprofits. They're going to be providing emergency assistance today to the residents of East Chicago. And, you know, it's just startling how quickly the weather can change. So let's bring in Bishop Tavis Grant, who is going to be just helping people out. The Greater First Baptist Church. Bishop, thank you for taking the time, sir. You and I chatted for a brief moment during the commercial break, and I can tell you, love your energy. Big fan of you already.
Well, thank you so very much. I get the opportunity in my morning workout to watch you. You're an incredible journalist, and I wish I had a premier I tell you what my movie is about, but it's been an amazing day here. You know, Northwest Indiana is the home of some of the greatest skilled workers in America, if not in the world. And the resilience that our community has shown is absolutely overwhelming. Today, we've served over 500 families. We're currently serving hot meals now, and we've served nearly 200 hot meals since noon. We'll be going for another couple of hours, and it's proof positive that whenever people come together to do something great always happens.
Bishop, you said you're serving 500 families. What are you hearing from the people on the ground right now?
Well, people have been, they've been on a tremendous degree of anxiety, frustration, agitation, uncertainty, and yet the confidence and resilience. You know, we have several hundred linemen who are from the region and from places like Tampa, Florida, and Mobile, Alabama, and Dallas, Texas, and Lexington, Kentucky, who've been working tirelessly to give us every opportunity to recover and restructure our utility grid and get the power back on. Thousands, as we speak, are still in the dark, and yet the light of hope still shines in terms of people who are giving water, who are cooking meals, who are knocking on the doors of seniors, who are removing trees. I had a person who called me yesterday, had a 150-year-old tree fall in their backyard, and they were amazed at how many neighbors came together to remove the debris of that tree and save the rest of his home. And so people have a sense of confidence in community, reliance in the opportunity to give, and above all of that, leave nobody left behind.
How are the families that may have already been struggling financially before these storms came through? I'd imagine that they are being hit especially hard with these outages.
East Chicago, 50% of its population lives below the national poverty line. When you consider higher gas prices, higher utility prices, higher food prices, and just the cost of day-to-day necessities, we know as of today, over 3,000 residents in Northwest Indiana have applied for food vouchers provided by the North Township office through Strack and Van Til, one of our major supermarket resources here in Northwest Indiana. And when you look at what has happened in Gary and Maryville and Crown Point and Portage and Valparaiso, the magnitude of this and how it has happened, it is brought about a great sense of commonality, and that is we all look alike in the dark.
More than 3,000 people have applied for emergency food vouchers. I mean, listen, one of the benefits of a show like this is that we can make sure on Chicago Live that the story that press doesn't move on just because maybe it's not as immediate of a story anymore. For a lot of people, this is an immediate story. Just because the storms blew through doesn't mean that the story's over, because there are still people who are impacted by a lack of resources, by a lack of power. Can you sort of talk about, when you hear that 3,000 people have applied for emergency food vouchers, what does that tell you about how serious this crisis really is?
It tells us the scale and scope of this crisis and the depth. 6 weeks ago, a series of storms came through Northwest Indiana and wiped out blocks and blocks of homes in middle-class communities, Ross Township, Calumet Township, North Township, and where people had never had tragedy of this magnitude, it came to their doorstep. Now, this storm that came out of nowhere, that covered nearly 100 miles at 100 miles an hour winds, that just tore through like a hot knife through butter to additional communities all over Northwest Indiana. It has given light to the fight of poverty and how close individuals live. You know, the national numbers tell us an overwhelming number of Americans live from check to check. So there are individuals now who have missed a 10-day check, a payroll, and the numbers don't lie. Most people who miss a pay period are at a minimum 30 days away from eviction and or foreclosure. And so the aftermath of this storm is going to really shed the light on how many people who are our neighbors, our friends, our relatives, that are literally sitting on the edge of uncertainty of the next tragedy or the next calamity. And if we don't act and be proactive, our response will be meaningless. And that's why we did what we did today. We're doing it in several other areas throughout the weekend. And as power is restored, we must focus on sustainable recovery. Sustainable recovery means that small businesses need relief. Sustainable recovery means homeowners need relief. Sustainable recovery means that those who live on the margins and who are already in various degrees of disparity, we must pull them out of that darkness into the light of resources and the immediacy of help they need right now.
Bishop, you have responded to these kinds of disasters in places like New Orleans and Flint and Jackson. Have you noticed any kind of a commonality in when boots are on the ground and you're there and you're able to talk to the people, or is every single one of those situations different compared to our situation right now?
You know, when we responded to Katrina and had individuals come up from Katrina, and we housed them here in Northwest Indiana, Hurricane Rita, we housed them here in Northwest Indiana. When we responded in Flint, Michigan, and delivered trucks of water from Northwest Indiana, I accompanied several trucks to Flint, Michigan, and water to Jackson, Mississippi. We responded to Haiti and other international crises. What is so unique to the Midwest is Northwest Indiana is a community of communities, and communities that are built on families. And it has been amazing how, where we're doing our giveaway today and our cookout today is just 2 blocks from where ICE agents set up to go after the undocumented in East Chicago. And what has been so refreshing and revealing at the same time is this sense of belonging, this sense of belief in the commonality of realizing it could have been me, it could have been my family, it could have been my son or my daughter. And so we've seen young adults, for example, allow seniors to go ahead of them. We've seen others that were single mothers that brought their children to our food lines. And we've seen people say, you and your children go ahead of us. We've seen people that we allow them to take as much as they can. We've seen people give up their space in line to help a senior pack their cart or pack their car. This is what is the possibility in any of these situations where you can take a minus and turn it into a plus, and you can take something that is so desperate, dark, and depressing and turn pain into power.
Bishop Tavis Grant, you apologized at the beginning of our conversation for not being at a red carpet premiere or some fancy Hollywood thing, but let me tell you, as a guy who's been out there to a lot of those, what you're doing is infinitely more important than any kind of big splashy Hollywood premiere or whatever, my friend. So don't apologize. I loved our conversation. I love what you're doing, and forget the big splashy Hollywood premieres. What you're doing is the real stuff, my friend.
Well, I want you to remember, tough times don't last. Tough people do. Keep up the great work you're doing. Help us spread the word. And let me tell you something. when we all do something, something great can happen, and let's do it together.
I love that. That's a great note to end on. Bishop Tavis Grant, thank you, my friend. I'll see you again soon, all right?
Be well. Thank you.
All right. It is right at 2:30. Much, much more to come on Chicago Live. Beautiful shot of our bean. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back. Welcome back to Chicago Live. It is just about 2:33. Chicago's dance community coming together on Saturday for the 35th annual Dance for Life fundraiser at the Auditorium Theater. The event brings together 11 local dance companies and is expected to raise $500,000 for the Chicago Dance Health Fund. We're going to bring in Michael Anderson, the managing advisor of the Chicago Dance Health Fund. First of all, Michael, thank you for taking the time, sir. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Jake. It's good to be here.
35 years is a massive milestone for anything in our city. What does this event mean to Chicago's dance community?
Well, it means a lot because it has been around for 35 years, obviously, and it's an opportunity for the whole dance community to come together for one evening on one stage for one important cause, which is raising money to help support dance professionals that are either underinsured or uninsured that need some additional help for critical health needs or basic health and wellness.
And can you talk about why the need for healthcare assistance among dancers has grown in the past few years?
Well, it's always been a need, and that's why the fund was created back in 1992, 93. It was during the AIDS crisis, and there were a lot of performers, artists, dance professionals that were dying of AIDS. And so a young dancer said, I want to do something in order to give back. And so what we dancers know how to do is put on a show. So the show became very popular for almost 25 years. It was a fundraiser for the AIDS Foundation of Chicago. And then in 2015, Chicago Dance Health Fund started as their own 501c3, and now we administer, and we still present Dance for Life, but we administer the grants. And
I'm sorry. Continue, please.
Yeah, the need is the fact that dancers are either uninsured or underinsured, and a lot of times it's hard for them to fill that gap right? And the cost of healthcare these days.
Can you talk about, I mentioned off the top that the event is on track to raise about $500,000, which is incredible. How many dancers will that actually help?
It will help, well, and it goes on and on, not just this year, but next year. But we help anywhere from 45 to 50 dancers with grants throughout the year. And we have a critical health grant, which is up to $5,000. And we have a general health and wellness that's up to $1,000. And, general health and wellness, it's things like a dentist appointment, a mental health therapist session, prescriptions, things just to kind of help them keep healthy and well. A critical health need, which is up to $5,000, really is for kind of a major injury or ongoing chronic disease. Sometimes it's even been something as serious as cancer. So we give these two different grants for two different kind of purposes, but it helps the dancer through these critical times.
We mentioned 11 different dance companies that are all collaborating together. Can you talk about the importance of that kind of collaboration, and also just what it says about the dance community that they all sort of recognize? I'd imagine there's a little bit of maybe like a rivalry between companies. I don't know, a little West Side Story, but the ability for all of them to say, hey, this is actually important and we need to work together.
Yeah, so it's so true. And I just speak from my own experience of being part of the dance community and a dancer, that it was because in each company, you're busy doing your own work, the touring, the rehearsals. But this was a night where we could all come together as a community and perform on the same stage. And so it really builds friendships and camaraderie that you don't find in other companies, or in other cities that have a lot of companies like New York. This is really unique to Chicago, where all of these companies come together and we share this common goal to raise money to help our own. And it's helped strengthen the dance community over these 35 years. I'm still friends with these dance professionals that I met on this stage, 25 years ago.
Michael, I just remembered as we were talking that you are a professional dancer. Did I just embarrass myself with my attempt at a West Side Story when you're a jet all the way?
Yeah, no, not at all. And Jake, I haven't been a professional dancer for 20 years, but I do other things now. But I guess once a dancer, always a dancer.
That's my attitude toward it. I promise you could do more today than I ever could in the entirety of my life. So don't give yourself enough respect. The organization so far has raised $8 million over its history of Dance for Life. Can you talk about the impact that you've seen with what that $8 million has done?
Absolutely. Again, in those first early years, it was really supporting dance professionals that were facing HIV and AIDS. And then it was probably about 20 years ago, that we started seeing applications for cancer or for more long-going issues like lupus, or things that dancers really were struggling with to just kind of stay healthy. And so that's kind of why we broadened the scope. It wasn't so HIV AIDS specific. And we've just continued to kind of build on that. And in the early beginnings, we were helping maybe 10 dancers a year. Now we're up to almost 50. That $8 million has been spread out over, a lot of people in our community. Also, a lot of people in those early years were also supporting people in the HIV AIDS community, because it was a fundraiser for AIDS Foundation Chicago. So they were helping the dance community, but they were also helping the community at large.
Michael, you mentioned sort of off the top of our conversation that, one of the needs of something like this comes from the fact that a lot of dancers are uninsured and a lot of dancers maybe have limited insurance. What can be done about that? I mean, for people that say, listen, this is my life's purpose, this is what I was meant to do, but the acceptance should not be, okay, fine, but I won't have insurance. Like, is there anything to be done to just prevent us from even needing a 36th anniversary of Dance for Life?
Right. It's a really good question. And of course, that's always top of mind for us. there are very few that are probably completely uninsured, right? But there are not as many. There's probably only 2 companies that I know of in the city that offer health insurance as part of their dance contract, which means the dancers who are usually in their 20s and 30s, when they're younger, they could be on their parents' insurance, or they find some other insurance in the marketplace that could be costly, or they have high deductibles and things like that. So this is, again, to kind of help substitute or sustain the dance community beyond what the companies can provide them or the dancers can provide themselves. Dancers are typically younger, right? So they don't have as many health issues unless it is an injury. And I should mention too, the grants are not only for dancers that are currently dancing or dance professionals that are currently working, but it's also for retired dancers that are now maybe teaching or choreographing or working to support the dance community. And that's where we see some of these more kind of critical health issues, a hip replacement or some kind of assistance that they need later on in life.
For people who've never, for no pun intended, looked behind the curtain of sort of the arts, do events like this serve at all as a reminder that behind the applause and behind the lights and behind what seems like an incredible way of life, that there is struggle, that there is hardship, that there is fighting for basic human necessities? Do you find that these sort of events serve as a reminder for people for whom dancing is just an amazing art form that they've appreciated?
Yes, I hope so. Because you're absolutely right, Jake. People see everything on the stage, right, is very glamorous. It looks like, and dancers are like athletes, right? And it takes a community to put all of that on stage. But at the end of the day, you take off the makeup, you take off your costumes, and most dancers walk to the bus station or to the train, and they go home to their, studio apartment. It's not like a professional athlete or, someone that is, a movie star or an actor in Hollywood. They're normal people that have extraordinary talent that get on stage, inspire us, who transform our daily lives into something that's magical. But at the end of the day, they have all the same issues and the problems, and probably are paid less than most.
One more time, let people know where they can get more information, when they need to come out, and where it is happening this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's this Saturday, August 22nd at the Auditorium Theater, the beautiful Auditorium Theater. The show starts at 7:30. There are still tickets available. They can go to the Auditorium Theater box office. I think it's auditoriumtheater.org to buy their tickets. There's the companies in the show: Joffrey, Hubbard Street, Giordano, Visceral, companies that Trinity Irish Dancers. So that you get to see all of these wonderful Chicago companies on one stage on one night, and then you can decide what you like and go see their season.
Love that. All right, Michael Anderson, managing advisor of the Chicago Dance Health Fund. An important topic, an important conversation, and I do appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, thanks, Jake.
Of course. All right, guys, it is just about 2:44 here on Chicago Live. Emily Wall just walked in. There she is, chief meteorologist. There she is, going to tell us all about those beautiful blue skies we have right there. But will they last? There's only one person in this room who knows the answer to that question, and I promise it's not me. More to come here on Chicago Live. We'll be right back. Welcome back to 46. I've been talking a lot about, we've had some amazing guests on the show so far today, talking about a lot of the recovery efforts from people who are still deeply impacted by those storms. I'd like to start by asking, you had a hell of a week last week.
Yes.
You did an amazing job along with the rest of the team and keeping everyone in our area informed with some very, very serious storms that came through that still are having an impact on people. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. You know, I can't complain because I have power.
Sure.
So cannot complain at all. So, you know, last week it was difficult in a lot of different ways, but especially for people that have been impacted because it was just one after the other, after the other, after the other. It was very relentless. And, you know, unfortunately, I wish I could sit up here today and say that we don't have any severe storms in the forecast anytime soon. But now tomorrow, we've actually been upgraded into the marginal risk from the Storm Prediction Center, which means isolated severe storms are possible. You know, it doesn't look like an event like we had last week, fortunately, but still, you know, even these isolated events, we're still having to work around them. And if you've traveled through Northwest Indiana, if you're in Northwest Indiana, I just actually had friends come in from Michigan a few days ago, and they could not believe all of the storm damage that they were still seeing, just trees down everywhere, roads that are still blocked off. It's, you know, it's an ongoing process that's taking a really long time.
And the last thing I'd imagine a lot of these people need right now is another wave of storms, severe storms blowing through.
Yeah, so that's all going to be associated with yet another cold front coming through tomorrow. I think late afternoon into the evening hours, it's going to be the time frame that we're looking at. Damaging winds, hail look to be the primary concern, but we are once again highlighted in that 2% tornado risk. So, you know, I think people hear tornado risk though, and that's the extreme that our brain is like, okay, that's really bad.
Sure.
But the event that we just had, I think, really illustrated how much we have to take the damaging wind risk seriously. Yeah. Right? Yeah.
Can we talk about, swing back around to what happened last week? Because it really did feel, I mean, there was a moment, you know, we have one day of storms.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. We have a second day of storms. We even have a third day of storms. And around between maybe the third and fourth straight day of severe weather, there started to feel like this, wait, what's going on here? Because I could not remember the last stretch of weather we had
that was like that.
Yeah.
So what ended up happening last week was we had the stationary front that was just barely south of our area, but every day it would kind of meander a little bit.
Sure.
So it would come to the north as a warm front, then it would sink to the south as a cold front, and it just sort of went like up and down, north and south for a week. That's why we had all of these low pressure systems just kind of traveling right along that frontal boundary. It was basically a highway system for them, just channeling all of those storm chances right on into our area. Now, I will say that tomorrow's front, I think it's going to be, you know, kind of a one and done. And then we're turning the corner, turning the page. It looks fantastic this
Beautiful weekend.
Beautiful weekend. Temperatures in the upper 70s too, so I think we're in really good shape. We just have to get past tomorrow now. But again, folks are still without power. We still have tens of thousands of folks without power in Northwest Indiana. And you know, some of those restoration times, Jake, aren't until Tuesday of next week. Wow. And we've already been through, what day is today? 8?
Yeah.
9?
Yeah, 8.
Without power for these folks. So unfortunately, you know, it's still going to take a little bit of time, but I will say at the very least, at least our humidity levels are going down. Temperatures are not outrageous. You know, they're in the upper 70s to low 80s. That's still very warm when you don't have air conditioning. It's still uncomfortable. I know that. But it's not 90s. You know, it could be a lot worse if Mother Nature was giving us a heat wave right now, and she's not.
And I'd imagine that we are not past the point where a 90-degree day is possible.
No, not at all. We can get 90-degree days in September. I think we've even had them in October as well. Rare, but, you know, September is still, it's not out of the question that we see a rogue 90.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a live look outside, because I want to go through, I mean, these have been, you know, some of the best live images, live shots from these cameras that we've been able to take in a while.
Yeah.
And of course, it's on a work day.
Yeah,
of course we're going to have, I know, you know, you and the rest of the team, you know, you guys put together these emails and just kind of keep us updated throughout the day here at the station as to what's going on. And I believe Kaplan's email at the beginning of the day said that this is one of the best days so far this summer.
Yeah, it's, I mean, look at it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and as someone
there
who,
goes my boat.
look at the, it's the SS Emily.
The SS Emily.
Look, there it is. Is that Kaplan on there?
I think so. He's waving hello.
Captain Cap?
Captain Cap.
Oh,
That's a good
come
one.
on.
Yeah.
Kaplan, he watches the show a lot. I really hope he's watching because we're giving him gold right now.
No, it's stunning out there today. And, I saw this really funny Instagram reel a few days ago, and it was like Chicago on the weekends this summer. And it was just torrential downpours.
Sure, yeah.
And storms coming through, tornadoes. And then Monday, this.
Exactly. And that's how it feels like it's been.
Yeah.
And because, I asked you a couple of weeks ago when we were doing this, from your perspective, did this, and I know we're at the point now where we're nearing the end of summer, so we can start to look back and kind of summarize things.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like in terms of weather, and I say this understanding that you have no impact on the weather whatsoever. You just give us forecast. It sucked.
It did.
It really sucked this summer. And as a city that prides itself on our summers and tells people, okay, sure, the winters are tough, but thank God we have the summers.
If you moved here this year, we are very sorry.
Yeah, it's not normally like this.
Yeah, it's not normally like this at all. We've been, it's been very soggy. It's been very rainy. But if you think back to July, do you remember we were talking about, I believe we had 20 some days in a row with no rainfall at O'Hare.
Sure.
We've made up for it in August.
We've had a few. Speaking of flight delays, would that be something that, you talked about sort of the scattered storms tomorrow, potential for flight delays out of O'Hare?
There's always going to be the potential every time we have thunderstorm activity coming through.
Let's be honest. If someone sneezes,
then we see
around
some
here,
delays.
there's going to be some flight delays.
Yeah, so there's absolutely a chance for that tomorrow. I don't think it's going to impact the morning. I don't think it's going to be impacting the midday flights. But late afternoon into the evening, if any of those storms, get close to O'Hare or Midway, you know how it goes.
I was really fascinated when you told me a few weeks ago that, the seasons of spring and fall are never truly guaranteed. We all have this image of what we want it to be. But unlike winter, which is going to happen, and unlike summer, which to some degree is going to happen, fall might be quick. It might not be that orange, crisp fall, hocus pocus Halloween day that we want. Is there anything that is happening now that is indicating what kind of fall we're going to have, or is it still too early?
So, we're looking at something that's called El Nino. I'm sure you've heard of it. Many people have.
You've told us about it.
Yes. So typically with El Nino, at least during the winter months, we lean more toward warmer, drier conditions. In the fall months, that can kind of bleed into as well, and we already have what's being called a strong El Nino taking place. So it could be resulting in a warmer, drier fall. But these long-term forecasts, you really have to take them with a grain of salt, right? Because you're still going to have those rogue cooler days. You're still going to have the below normal days. But I think if we look back, if we get to December, and then we take a look back at fall, I would not be surprised if it ends up being slightly warmer than normal and slightly drier than normal.
I always sometimes have to, whether it's friends or family, that'll send me a 2-week forecast or a month forecast.
Tell them don't do that.
And I was going to ask you, what is the number of days that you would say, okay, from this point on, this is BS. Nobody really knows.
So I think within 5 days, we're pretty accurate.
Sure.
Within 5 days, you can definitely see your weather patterns. You can have a really great idea on what temperatures are going to be within a few degrees. 6th and 7th day, you're going to see a decent amount of changes. You're going to see those 5-degree temp swings most likely, which I think 5 degrees is significant. You know, there's a big difference between 65 and 70, right?
Right.
So day 6, day 7, you're going to see those fluctuations. After day 7, it's just a trend.
Sure.
So you can say we're trending warmer.
But at any point,
there's
the road veers.
Right. There's not a
directions.
lot of accuracy outside of just what the trend could be beyond a week.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. You filled in for Mark Strell the other day on Good Day Chicago on Saturday.
I've been all over the place.
You have been all over the place because you've been working long days here, and then you filled in over the weekend. It was your first morning show in 6 years. Did you say?
6 years.
At that point, it was to a little over a week and a half. Have you recovered yet?
Oh, I've recovered. Yeah. The weekend morning show though is different than the weekday morning show. There's a little bit of a later start.
Yeah.
So I was grateful
and it's good
for that.
vibes. It's myself and Brian Jackson, and we pride ourselves on our weekend vibes.
Well, you had good vibes over the weekend.
Good vibes.
But no, it was good. We've talked about it before. I have a newborn at home, so I'm up periodically all throughout the night anyway.
I'm heading in that direction.
You are.
Yeah.
It's the best time. But yes, you get used to being woken up often. Although you also get used to those little cat naps.
Yeah.
So that's on the day that I filled in on the morning show, I just had to get up and stay up, and that was the difference. I was already usually up at 4 a.m.
So are you saying that we should talk to our executive producer, Jim Selly, about building in maybe a 15-minute cat nap block?
Yes.
To just, hey guys, cut to the skyline real quick.
And I would argue that a lot of our viewers need cat naps too.
Right? See, we pull this up for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
I just kick back, we turn the mic off. And there's
play some nice,
some
calming
smooth jazz.
Music. Yeah, yeah.
And there's a cat nap to be had, and that is how I will get through.
Is so beautiful. It looks like just an ocean.
It really is.
It looks like the Caribbean.
Honest to God, look at, and I love that whenever we get a little bit of action, oh look, there's the our director Mike DeCappa just said there's the boat. I think that's a water taxi. I'm not sure that counts as the SS Emily.
Also, the best way to get around on a day like today.
It's a nice way to get from A to B.
Yeah.
But that's also, I will tell you, Iris and I have taken that walk many a time or two. Just it's a nice walk. If you can get along the lakefront and get out there and stretch your legs, if you have the opportunity. And listen, I don't know how many, however much I've been complaining about a lot of days over this summer, they are still days that in February I would be praying
for them.
So I feel like I should stop complaining, and yet I won't.
We're still losing about 2 to 3 minutes.
Don't say that.
I'm just here with the facts.
Okay, say it again. 2
to 3 minutes of daylight per day.
Per day?
Per day, we're losing.
We only have so many minutes.
I don't know if you've noticed. It really hit me today.
Yeah.
I was sitting out on the balcony this morning, and the sun angle is so different. So that tells you we're getting to that time.
Don't love that. And then what's the day where it starts increasing?
December
or something,
21st
right?
or 22nd usually.
I remember because you guys send that email out, and that to me that's sort of the even though at that point
even though it's still the beginning
it's
of
monumental.
Winter.
It's the beginning of winter, but there's still something. Listen, in the middle of a Chicago winter, we are trying to grasp on to anything that we can get our fingers on.
News.
Yeah. All right. You've got. Oh, look at this shot.
Those are all my boats.
Come on, all of them.
Yeah.
That just feels selfish.
That does.
It really does. And then in the distance, you've got the SS Kaplan.
Yeah.
He's on there.
Really big, like the cruise ship.
Yeah.
One?
That feels like I could see him and Mark Strell, creating a new reboot of the Love Boat on that thing.
Yeah.
I could see that. Kids, if you don't know, Love Boat was a show back in the day. All right. Thank you for joining us as always. I know you're in the middle of building your forecast for Fox 32 News at 4. If you think she's good on this show, wait till you see her opposite Terrence Lee. It's the best thing in the world. All right, guys, much more to come here on Chicago Live. It's 3 o'clock, just an hour left of the show. We'll tell you more when we come back.
Chicago Live. How's it going? Remember the cat nap that Jake Hamilton was just talking about it? Well, he's taking that now, so I'm going to fill you in on some of the things that we are covering today. I'm just joking. You know that we do this check-in every day around 3 o'clock. Want to catch you up on some headlines that our reporters are working on, and then also tell you about my podcast episode that just dropped a couple hours ago. I'll get you all caught up on everything you need to know. Let's start with Brett Bagansky. Brett was originally covering Northwest Indiana. This is day 9 for them without power. You know, that storm hit last Tuesday. It's Thursday, and still tens of thousands of people still do not have power. Actually, in our meeting, we heard about an explosion nearby. So without giving away too much, as we're still confirming things, he's working on that. So not sure exactly which direction he's going to head in this afternoon when you see him at 4, 5, and 9, but working on certainly a lot of stories. While we're talking about people not having power still, Leslie's got a really interesting story today about some video that we got a hold of. So there is this home without power, generator running in the front yard, okay? Well, you see on this family's Ring camera or whatever kind of camera they had above their garage, you see a ComEd worker turn off the generator. Well, they didn't have power, obviously. They needed that generator to be working. Generator was the reason that the sump pump was working. Turn off the generator, sump pump isn't working. I'll let you fill in the blanks from there. Not good. Leslie is going to talk to that homeowner to try to see what went on, what they're dealing with now. Basement flooded, things not good for them. So Leslie's going to be talking to them. You'll hear that story at 4, 5, and 9. Jody is covering a story that she has covered quite a bit recently. It's about the Ford City Mall, the vote happening tonight. So we've been telling you about the developer wanting to build that massive warehouse complex. It's near 76th and Cicero, Ford City Mall. The plan calls for 4 buildings spanning more than 1 million square feet and got lots of parking as well for cars and trucks. So we're going to bring you the update from that vote a little bit later tonight. Joni's covering that. Tia has a really interesting story, a happy story. It's about Joe Freshgoods. You've probably heard of him. He's a designer. He works with different brands like New Balance, and he's opening up a store. He's going to sell some clothes and coffee, kind of a unique combination there. We were talking to Tia a little bit earlier on The Loop today, and she was saying that clothes, the merchandise, great. The coffee, also great. So you've got a business here doing 2 totally different things, but not sacrificing one so that the other does better. They're both doing really, really well. So Tia's got a great story coming your way a little bit later. I want to tell you about my podcast that just dropped a couple hours ago. It dropped 3 hours ago at noon. This week, we are not live with Charles Isbell. He's the chancellor of University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. I asked him about it being Urbana-Champaign. I went to University of Illinois, and I hear a lot of people say University of Illinois, Champaign-Urbana. All right, I asked him why it's Urbana-Champaign and why people still get it wrong. So that was a fun way to open up the podcast. And then once we got that out of the way, of course, I had to ask him, once you're leaving CAMS at 2 a.m., where are you going for food on Green Street? So we had a very interesting answer to that. He also has a particular taste all of the time for hot chocolate. He walked into this recording. It was the middle of summer. He walked in with a hot chocolate. And I was like, friend, it's the middle of July. What are we doing? Loves hot chocolate any time of the year. Also loves a cherry Coke. He said that he will often ask for the bartender wherever he is to make him a cherry Coke. Just ask for a Coke, throw a little grenadine in there. So he's got all sorts of tricks. I also asked him about speaking in front of crowds. He's the chancellor of U of I. So obviously he's talking to big crowds pretty often, right? So I asked him, you know, what's your trick to doing this? And he said, well, it's pretty simple. You just have a good time. And if you're having a good time, then everybody else around you is going to have a good time as well. So I thought that was an awesome trick that anybody can use, right? In your next presentation or whatever it is, in a presentation that you might have today on a Thursday, you can use that trick. He talked about being the oldest of 3 boys, being from Atlanta, and he's the oldest, and he's 6'3", but get this, he's still the shortest. He said, you have no idea how annoying it is being 6'3", and being the shortest person in your family. And I was like, well, I'm 5'3". So yeah, I know nothing about that. Really, really good stuff though. He's also a huge ultimate Frisbee player. So he ended up bringing a little, swag bag. He knew that I went to U of I and he was excited about that. So they brought a Frisbee and a notebook and a pen, just stuff like that. And I didn't know that he was really big into this ultimate Frisbee thing. Next thing I know, you guys, he's pulling this Frisbee out of the little swag bag that he brought, and we're throwing the Frisbee across the room. So he gave me some tricks. I wanted to throw it, it's called the hammer, if you're familiar with that. He shut that one down really quickly. That didn't happen, but we did throw it across the room, so it was a lot of fun. Last thing I'll leave you with about the podcast, he also said that his son is entering his freshman year at University of Illinois. So how sweet is that? Can you imagine your dad is the chancellor of the university that you're attending? So I said, now, does it come with a get out of jail free card, if you will? He said no, his son is going to follow all of the rules. And I said, you know what? That actually makes sense. I feel like there would be more pressure if your dad is the chancellor. So lots of good stuff. If you listen to Not Live with Charles Isbell today, again, that's available today already. Go listen. It's on Spotify. It's on our app. It's on our website, our YouTube, lots of places that you can get it. That's all I've got for you guys. Thank you so much for listening. We are getting right back to Chicago Live. Jake should be awake from that cat nap now. Just joking. See ya.
Welcome back to Chicago Live. It is 3:10. We are going to dip in live because the long-awaited Tupac Shakur murder trial is underway in Las Vegas. Let's listen in.
All right, anything else we need to address before we bring the jury back in?
No, Your Honor. No, Your Honor.
Okay, let's bring them in.
Stand for the jury.
The party stipulates the presence of the jury.
Yes, Your Honor.
You may be seated. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are still in the state's case in chief. State, who's the next witness you will be calling at this time?
Denvonte Lee.
Denvonte.
You do solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
You may be seated. May I please have you state and spell your first and last name for the record?
Devontae Lee, spelled D-E-N-V-O-N-T-A, last name Lee, L-E-E.
Thanks, Mr. Lee, for being here. Mr. Paul, whenever you're ready, you may proceed.
All right, thank you. Sir, you did not volunteer to be here, is that fair?
No, I didn't.
In fact, you're under a court order to be here?
Yes.
Through a subpoena?
Yes.
In fact, you have expressed many times the fact that you do not want to participate in this.
Yeah.
But understanding that you're a court order, you don't have a choice whether or not to sit in that chair. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay. I want to ask you a little bit about the mid-1990s. Where were you living?
At the time, I think Hawthorne.
Did you ever start spending time in Compton?
Yes.
And what was, who were you spending time with?
My homeboys and people around, you know, friends.
At some point, were you spending time with a person you knew as Big Dre?
Yes.
Would you describe him as a friend?
Yeah.
And then later on, did you start spending time with a person by the name of Orlando Anderson?
Yes, I did.
Would you consider him a friend?
Yes.
Okay. As a result of your relationship with Orlando Anderson, did you start coming into contact with the Southside Compton Crips?
Oh, yes, I did.
Can you tell us how that happened?
We used to go over there and, hang out. And we wasn't from over there at that time, but we knew a couple of people. So, you know what I mean? We go over there, hang out, or whatnot, chill.
And then is it fair to say at some point that you were given a option of joining Southside Crips or facing a different kind of repercussion?
Yeah, it was I would say it was an option, like, either or, basically.
And can you tell us what the either or was?
Well, at the time, it was either, we're going to join or we just can't come around no more.
And did you ultimately join?
Yeah, I did.
And how does that work? How did you join?
Well, you get put on, meaning, have a fight or whatever.
Now,
things of that nature.
Is it always this fight? Is it always a one-on-one, or sometimes is it multiple people on one?
Sometimes it's not one-on-one. If you get lucky, you you might get a fair one like that. But other than that, sometimes it's not one-on-one.
And when you say a fair one, you mean a one-on-one?
Yeah.
All right. And so when you did you get a fair one, or did you have to get jumped in by multiple people?
Oh, I had a fair one. Yeah, it was not multiple people.
And how'd that happen? How'd that come about? You getting a fair one?
Well, I don't understand the question.
Well, did Mr. Anderson assist you in joining the Southside Crips?
Oh, honestly, he didn't assist us on joining nothing. He just was there to make sure, because we was, we're friends of his, to make sure basically that we had a fair, shake. We get a fair chance. Won't get dogged out, or not unless you got dogged out by that one, whoever he was fighting. So yeah, he was, he was there to make sure that everything went pretty much as smooth as it can go.
And so Orlando Anderson was basically looking out for you.
Yeah, he was looking out for all of those.
Now, are you familiar with a person that went by the moniker Keefe D?
Yes.
And who was he in the Southside Crips in the mid-90s?
He was a hustler. He was known for hustling. That's what he was known. What I knew from him is he was a hustler. Grew up around there. That's basically what he was. Yeah.
Okay. And when you say he was a hustler, for those of us who don't understand what that means, what does that mean? Is he getting money? Is he doing other things?
He's getting money, yeah.
You are listening in live to the long-awaited Tupac Shakur murder trial underway in Las Vegas. The defendant, Dwayne Davis, a former gang leader who is the only person ever charged in connection with Tupac's 1996 killing. He has pleaded not guilty. Prosecutors do not allege that Davis pulled the trigger. Instead, they say that he organized and directed the attack, obtained the gun, and was in the white Cadillac from which the shots were fired. We will keep you updated on this as more. This is obviously going to be a story that we're going to be able to continue to update you on. But for now, it is 3:17. We got just under 45 minutes left in the show. A beautiful day here in Chicago. One of those we haven't seen like this in a while, and one of them that we deeply needed after the events of last week, events that many people are still feeling the repercussions of. But for now, we've got much more to come here on Chicago Live. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back. Welcome back to Chicago Live. It is 3:20, and I'm your host, Jake Hamilton. Let's take a live look outside. We just had Emily on the show who was telling us how beautiful of a day it is that we're having, kind of the sort of quintessential Chicago summer day that we use as an example whenever people try to talk to us about our winters, where we say, listen, we have days like this, like August 20th, 2026. These are the kind of days we use as the example of why we endure those Chicago winters. It's because we can enjoy the days like this. But if you saw Emily on the show a couple of minutes ago, you probably heard her say that thing that really bothered me when she said it, which is that we are losing a couple of minutes of daylight every single day. Not a week, every single day. So it stands to reason that we have more summer behind us than we do ahead of us. And as those summer skies, those summer suns, those summer winds start dying down, skincare experts say it is time to adjust your routine for a cooler, drier fall weather. We're going to bring in Tiffany Underwood, LE and Factor 5 Director of Education. Tiffany, I get that there is value in this. This is an incredibly important thing, but do people ever get frustrated because the inherent need of what it is that you're talking about means that people have to accept that summer is nearing an end?
Yes, but in South Georgia today, it's like 110 outside, so I'm happy to
Fair enough.
embrace
Fair
the
enough.
weather.
Fair enough. Yeah, you know what? This makes a lot of sense. Obviously, the needs, the skin, the largest organ in the body, and this is, the needs are constantly changing, especially in Chicago, where we do get to experience all 4 seasons here. For someone who is doing their best, they're doing all the right things. They're doing all the sunscreen things that they're supposed to be doing during the summer. Those changes need once we start hitting September, October, November.
Sure, yeah. So, summertime we're, somewhat dehydrated. We're in either hot or dry warmth. But then as we move into the cooler months, you want to think about hydration for the skin, to add some water content to plump the skin, and then also fats and ceramides. So that's really going to lock in that moisture so we don't lose it when it's cold and airish outside.
What do you think are some of the biggest mistakes that people make when adjusting their skincare for cooler temperatures?
Well, I think you always have to listen to your skin and how it acclimates. I think overexfoliation sometimes can, exacerbate that, or that dry skin or oily skin don't need moisturizer.
After months of sun exposure, and we here in Chicago especially, we try to get out and we try to enjoy getting outside as much as we can, because God knows that once we hit winter, we're all going to be kind of cooped up inside. Is there a degree of recovery that needs to be done in addition to preparing ourselves for whatever is to come? Is there anything we need to do to sort of retroactively maybe undo any damage that maybe has been done?
Yeah, I think we should always be in mind of our, barrier, and keeping that supported all the time, and always trying to, help in age management. And I feel like growth factors definitely help with that. They can help fight the 5 signs of aging. As far as peptides, I love copper peptide for, aiding in wound healing and just overall age management.
I'd imagine, I mentioned that one of the great things about the city of Chicago is that we do get to experience those 4 seasons. As much as we are gearing up and preparing for fall, that also inherently means that winter is not that far away. I know my girlfriend, it's August, and my girlfriend is, we're looking for that next big winter coat because we know that it's coming. Yes, so are there proactive things? I know we're talking about fall right now, but is there anything proactive that we should already be doing to gear up? Because those Chicago winds, it's not why we're called the Windy City, but those Chicago winds do hurt sometimes.
Yeah. So I think, I do think ingredients that will help with cell turnover too, like retinol, one that will help support your skin. Maybe it's formulated with some shea butter. Again, with the growth factors, that's such an important one. I feel like it's a powerhouse ingredient. So that's what I would say.
My girlfriend told me the other day, she said, she said, someone who has to, because of television, has to wear makeup more often than he doesn't. She said, you should really put moisturizer on your face. And I really, yes. It's not a thing that I have been doing. I'm a nearly 40-year-old man that now thinking, yeah, I probably should have been moisturizing for the last 20 years. Is it one of those situations where it's never too late to start? If someone's listening to this going, I haven't been doing it and I'm afraid it's too late now?
Yeah, never too late to start. I have clients that come to me at 70 years old, and I'm like, okay, protect your skin in the morning. Mm-hmm. So that should mean, antioxidant support as well as SPF. And then at night, think about repairing and reversing some of that damage. So retinols.
You know, we're often told about, I mean, since I was a kid, the value of sunscreen. And, you know, initially it was, sunscreen is the thing that you put on if you're going to the beach or if you're going to be walking around a theme park all day. You kind of get lathered in sunscreen. But the older I get, the more I feel like I'm told by people, at all times. Like if you can, put it in. Can you explain that to me? Because I genuinely have never truly understood that.
Yeah, so I think of it too, like 90% of our extrinsic or outside aging is from the sun, for one. And I tell people, if they say, hey, I'm in an office all day, I really don't need it. Well, I'm like, well, your office plants or house plants, they require sun to live. So they're getting, UV rays that way. It's just damage to the skin. So I say apply it in the morning every day. If you can't do it every 2 hours, that's okay, unless you're outside by the pool. But at least once a day.
I'm someone who is, in regards to skin care and skin treatment, kind of ignorant about the topic, which is why I'm very interested in sort of your breakdown of this. If I were to walk into a department store and look at the wall of products, it can be overwhelming. One bottle has this, but the other bottle doesn't have that, but it does have this. Where do you recommend starting?
Well, one, I feel like that's where, professionals or licensed professionals that can actually read your skin and analyze it and tell you what's best. But I do think, number one, a cleanser, one that's not going to strip your skin. So if you're cleansing your face and you feel dry and tight after, that cleanser is not for you. And then secondly, like I said, in the morning, I would protect the skin with a vitamin C or some sort of antioxidant with a moisturizer SPF. And then at night, cleanse again. And usually I say a retinol. If your skin can tolerate it, there's so many on the market. You just need to pick the one that, that you'll do. Consistency is key.
And as we get older, do our needs change? I know we're talking a lot about sort of how the seasons affect our needs in terms of our skin. How much does age?
Absolutely. So over time, we just start slowing down. Our cells don't turn over as fast. They're supposed to turn over 28 to 30 days. And as we progress, it might be 52 days. So that's where exfoliants come in. That's where your professional treatments can come in to help that process along. And
is there a good source of information where, I'm sure this was a lot for people to take in because, by the time someone gets, one skincare regimen down, then the seasons are changing and we got to start all over again. Is there one good place you would send someone to for information?
I would say there's so many good sources out there. But
do you have a website or do you have an Instagram that people can go to?
Yeah, I would say Instagram is _skin_co or Factor 5 Skin. Yeah.
Fantastic. All right. Tiffany Underwood, valuable information. Like I said, our seasons are changing a lot here as are our skincare needs. So we appreciate you for taking the time this afternoon.
Thank you.
Take care. All right, guys, we are coming up on 3:30. We have much more to come here on Chicago Live. Let's take another look out at our beautiful city. Listen, these shots have not looked this good for a while, so I keep asking our incredible directors to pull these shots up so we can take a look at them because God knows how long they're going to look this blue, how long they're going to look this vibrant. The other one looked better, but this one looks good too. I like it. So lots more to come. Let's take a few more beautiful shots, and then we'll be right back with you right here on Chicago Live. Welcome back. 3:32 on Chicago Live. One of my favorite people at the station just so happens to be, I think, one of the most talented and incredible storytellers, not just at the station, not just in the city, but I think in the country. A journalist who I am proud to not just call a colleague, but also call a friend. And I always deeply appreciate anytime she has a couple of minutes to come on the show, because it usually means she's talking about a damn good story that she is working on. My friend Tia Ewing, right downstairs in the Fox 32 Chicago newsroom. I'd imagine that you're, as you always are, working on something.
I am working on something. The story that's airing tonight is already in the books. I'm actually pouring over. This isn't the whole 200 pages, but I have like 200 pages plus from a FOIA request on a story that we're going to do a part 2 of next week. This involves a student, at the time was a student at a Chicago public school who sadly was a victim of sexual abuse at the hands of the teacher, and actually had a child by said teacher. And we finally got some documents in our hands that kind of proves a little bit of the timeline of the story in which she shared with us. We believed her story from the start, but to actually see it in black and white, the documents from back then, because this was some years ago, we're talking 40 plus years ago, to pour over these documents and really get to the nitty gritty of the timeline was a bit shocking for me. I think it's going to be shocking to our viewers, and it still begs the question of why even 40 years later she is still on this quest for justice. So that's a story that we will hopefully have for you next week. Today's story, and hence why I'm dressed down, because when you're pouring over documents, you don't want to be dressed down. You're sweating. You know, you're using highlighter and all the things. But our story tonight is on a lighter note, on a kind of like the polar opposite of that particular story that I was just talking about. This is a story that I think is motivational, and it's about a young man who grew up on the west side of Chicago named Joseph Robinson. Most people in the fashion world would know him as Joe Freshgoods. He's a Chicago designer. He's been doing this for 20 plus years, doing T-shirts and all of this stuff. But he's had one of the longest running collaborations with New Balance, where he rolls out all these different shoes with New Balance, you know, with these collaborations. You're looking at his actual now brick and mortar, which is really innovative, because what you're seeing there, you're seeing, this is at 1843 West Chicago Avenue. You're seeing a store where there's clothing, there's shoes, since we talked about New Balance there, and that's his T-shirts. It's called Every Now and Then. And then in the back of this location is Josephine's. Josephine's is really paying homage to his grandmother, who he used to go visit in the South, and it's this coffee shop. And it was amazing to see during this interview, they didn't shut the doors. We didn't like say, hey, nobody can come in. We enjoyed it. We set it up right in the front of the store. People were walking in and out behind us. So this was like a very active, sort of interview. And most people that came in overwhelmingly were going there for the coffee shop. There were a few people that shopped for the shoes, but most people came in for the coffee shop. They're playing music. They have a big like projector screen, and it's just a different kind of vibe. And he actually told me that most people told him this is not a good time, looking at our economy right now, to open up a brick and mortar, a clothing store, a coffee shop. And he was saying, the markup on coffee is insane. And really, it was driven by his love for coffee and wanting to have kind of like a different experience when he's going to a coffee shop, and he decided to create that experience himself. So we talk about that. We also kind of hinted at a collaboration that's coming in the future. I know what it is now, but I'm not going to reveal that. I'm going to wait for it to be revealed to the world. And then he also talked about, this concept that he created, potentially turning it into a restaurant. So we kind of walked through it. It's very interesting. He started drawing shoes as a I think he said in fourth grade, a fourth grade teacher. And, Chicago's known for Nikes, Michael Jordans, and he was actually sketching out a Michael Jordan shoe, and a teacher came up, balled it up, and said, you need to be thinking about being a police officer or a firefighter. You don't need to be thinking about drawing shoes. And he kept that in his mind, like, no, I'm gonna show that teacher, yes, you can be an artist that, draws shoes, and it becomes, something that people actually wear. And he kept that with him his whole journey, which leads him to where he is today. People line up around the corner to get their hands on these Joe Freshgoods New Balance shoes.
Oh, yeah. It's so interesting. As you were sort of saying this, my mind went to how many different times have we sent a camera out to shoot, the lines around the block of the new release of a new pair of Jordans or something. And as you started to tell the teacher story, I was hoping it was going down the direction of the teacher saw him and went, "This is amazing. Keep doing it." Now, by any chance, does he know where that teacher is? And maybe I think the greatest.
He did not name the teacher. He actually says that she didn't mean any harm.
Of course.
That was what she thought at the time. But it was the fuel, it was the catalyst that really pushed him to where he is today. And we've all had those moments, I'm sure. I don't know about you, Jake, but I'll never forget, my first bout. It was literally about, felt like I was in a fight for my life, in TV, and the critics and, people saying, maybe you're not cut out for this. And maybe to some degree at that time, they were right. I wasn't, as established and understood the craft as much as I do now. And so sometimes we take those negatives. I think that's the moral of the story, is that sometimes we should take these negatives of what people are saying and really turn it into positives. And so to hear somebody be able to do that, because we're living in a day now where sometimes people say negative things and it can impact your life. Like, we're not talking about in that moment, like forever. And so to hear that somebody took, some negative words, came up with this concept. You see the outside of the store has like this old school feel. That sign that's on the top, that's all intentional. I think this is a story that we all can learn something from. Maybe you don't, you're not in fashion. Maybe you have no intent to ever go into fashion. But even as adults, you have people say things to you. I'm sure you've had a viewer or two to send you a nasty email in the past. You take some of that. Yeah, you take some of that and you use it, as positive fuel. And my takeaway from Joe Freshgoods was, I always thought he was a little artsy. I had met him in the past, but I had a different appreciation for someone that, goes and steps out into an entrepreneur venture that, you hope that it doesn't sink, and, you put your all into it. Like that art that you're seeing, that's from an artist. And I want to say he said out of Louisiana. I hope I didn't mess that up. But being very intentional about, what you want out of life, despite someone negatively critiquing you. And I guess that's really the message here for everyone that watches the story. Maybe you could give a darn about New Balance. Maybe you don't even like matcha. You saw matcha and iced tea being poured there. But I think the message here is, in a time where there's so much negativity, take some of that negativity and turn it for good. And I think we all can do that. It's just, redirecting our brains in different ways, but I think we all can learn from that.
And it's also important to remember that art is subjective. And that just because one person doesn't like, Iris and I, last time we were in New York or something, we went over to the MoMA, the Museum of Modern Art. And I'm not going to lie, I walked through a lot of those rooms going, like that's. Now, would I ever say, well, that's not art and it doesn't deserve to belong? No, it's not my thing. For me, I think a cool movie poster is art. To me, that's what I hang on my wall, a beautiful movie poster. Someone else looks at it and goes, oh, that's crap. Why would you hang that up? But in the same way, shoes can be art. You can't tell somebody that shoes can't be art. Of course they can.
Yeah, and we're living in a day and age now where people, I'm sure, oftentimes you have on tennis shoes with your suits. Do you say tennis shoes or do you say sneakers? Or do you say gym shoes?
Oh, that's a good question. It's so different because I grew up saying something and then I feel like I'm trying to snap back to because sometimes my Southern upbringing says something and then sometimes my decade plus in Chicago says something else. Yeah. Sneakers, I guess.
I don't even know what I say. Honestly, it was one of those moments, I'll be honest, in my interview. You do an interview and you look back after the fact. Yeah. It was one of the questions I should have asked Joe.
It's a great, it's a great follow-up.
It's a great story.
It really is.
A great question to ask people.
Yeah.
But you usually wear them with your suits, is my point.
Yes, I do.
And you have a variety. Do you have one up here now?
No, I've got. I don't think trust me. I've got boots on right now. I don't think you can.
Okay, because I've seen you wear, your Nikes.
Yeah,
those are nice.
Thank you. Yeah, it's usually either boots or I'm wearing Jordans with. Yeah. Which is the weirdest range of footwear.
But that's the vibes now, right? Yeah. Like you can wear, back in the day, maybe not so much, but now you can wear your Jordans with a suit, and there's no critique. And I think that's also. Honestly, maybe we haven't considered this as a potential story, but I think Chicago has a lot to do with that.
That's a great point. Great point.
100% has a lot to do with it.
Obviously, the story that we're talking about that's airing today, it's different than the story that you are currently working on. But I do want to swing back around to that original one because the part one of that story was so incredible and was so well done. Well, you and I talked at length about that. One, I would like to give people the chance. I know you are currently working on part two. If they missed part one, because it is kind of a must-see story. Listen, I do a lot of things on this station. They're a lot of fun to do, but I wouldn't call them must-sees. This story that you did is a must-see story. So can you let people know where they can see part one? Because I'd imagine, based on what I saw when I watched part one, part two is just as, if not more important.
So I will say this, part two, if you didn't see part one when you watch part two, because, you know, it's almost like a sequel, right? If you didn't watch part one, if you watch part two of this story, you will not be any less knowledgeable, because we basically pick up part two with some of the scatterings and thoughts that were in part one. So like immediately if you start watching part two, based on the way it's written right now, you will know exactly what's going on. You don't need to watch part one to do that. But if you do want to go watch part one, you can go watch it by literally just typing in Nancy Alexander. And the reason why I'm giving her name is because she's the story. It's her story. She decided as a sexual abuse victim to tell it to us, and she's seeking justice. And I think, you know, it to me, there's something about somebody sitting down to tell you some of the most embarrassing, heartbreaking moments of their life that literally they couldn't have stopped, right? She was a minor. And so I think to keep her name circulating and to keep the story out there, I think if you just search her name, you'll be directed right to it. It's everywhere on all of our platforms. And then part two, we pick it back up with her about one part that we left out in the story at the time, not really realizing, I think we kind of knew it would go in the direction of a part two, but not realizing how the classroom, she talked a lot about what happened in the classroom, didn't realize at the time how the documents would kind of play into that. So we pick it up with her saying, literally, it started with me being touched in the classroom. Next thing you know, I'm literally being assaulted. You can go with me on that without me using the exact words, in the classroom. And then I followed up by saying, well, how is it that this was happening in a classroom and people walk past classrooms all the time and look in, and how did no one look in? And she said at the time, you know, it wasn't a problem for you to have something over the glass of your classroom door. And so he would do it on an angle where if you did peek in, you wouldn't see because it was on a different angle. So he was very strategic, according to her, about how this happened. So we pick it up right in the middle of an assault, essentially, is where we pick up the story. And then from there, we let the documents tell, you know, how did he end up in that classroom? How did he end up at those schools that she was at? What kind of students was he assigned to? We delve into all of that in our part two. Obviously, it has to go through the legal process of vetting, so that's where it's at now, in the hands of our legal department. But I'm pretty sure probably by, if I had to guess, maybe by Thursday of next week, it'll be out again, you know, on our air for people to see. And so, yeah, Nancy Alexander will lead you to the first story that we told of this victim who, because of the law, it doesn't go back far enough, even though DNA proves that this teacher fathered a child with a minor, and the DNA came from his own daughter, who she found through Ancestry.com. Sorry, my light has gone out. Who she found through Ancestry.com, who drives to Chicago, gives her DNA, realizes that her daughter, his daughter, are sisters. And even though there's this DNA evidence, he is not being charged because the law states that it can't go back that far. So that's where we are with this story.
Tia Ewing, we talk about the importance of journalism and of this kind of local story. This is the epitome of what they're talking about when they talk about the importance of journalism. Tia Ewing, I know you were hard at work and you stopped in the middle of your workday to chat with us. Get back to it, and we'll talk soon. And I really do appreciate your time.
Thank you, Jake. We'll see you next time.
See you soon. All right, guys, much more to come. We got under 15 minutes left in the show, but we are not done yet. Just about 3:47. Chicago Live rolls on. We'll be right back. Welcome back. 3:49, almost done with Chicago Live, but not before one last great guest, one last great topic. Chicago Public Schools celebrating the reopening of a newly renovated swimming pool at Edward Beasley Magnet Academic Center in the 3rd Ward. We are going to bring in Alderman Pat Dow to talk all about it. Good to see you. How you doing today?
Well, good afternoon. Great to be here. It's always good to be on TV when there's good news to be had.
Yes, and listen, as the guy on the other side of this, trust me, it's very much, it's better to be doing these sort of conversations on my end as well. Talk about the importance of reopening this pool for the students and the families.
You know, this pool has been closed literally for 6 years. And CPS invested $1.5 million into this school as a capital improvement, and it gives our kids an opportunity to learn how to swim. I mean, we don't have many swimming pools in the Chicago area in the 3rd Ward. I think we have, you know, a few, but we don't really have any in the schools, which are going to be open to the public. Working with the Park District and CPS. So that's good for the community. But I think it's extra special that our young people have an opportunity to learn how to swim and, you know, can take that skill and, you know, do a lot of different things with it, whether they're interested in swimming professionally or being a lifeguard for the Chicago Park District or just being not fearful of water. So I think this is a great opportunity and one that I'm very pleased that we're making that investment today.
And that's such a great point. You know, just for general safety, the importance of swimming lessons, something that I think maybe some people take for granted. You know, if you grew up around swimming pools or grew up with the ability to, you know, that's all, you know, fine and good. But like you said, you know, if you don't have one of these in the community, you are missing out on an opportunity to not just, okay, go have fun and jump in the pool and what have you. This is an actual safety concern for anyone maybe that doesn't know how to swim.
Yes, absolutely. You know, just being able to even go to the lakefront on a nice summer day and not having a fear of water, having a familiarity with the water so that when you get in it, you know what you can, you know, what you can do, you know what your limits might be already. From, you know, treading water to swimming on your back to, you know, to being a real good swimmer. I think those skills are learned at an early age in places like Beasley Elementary School.
Alderman, are there other schools in your ward that need similar investments such as this?
I'm sure we have other schools, not elementary schools that I can think of. We've have spent over the last few years getting the Park District to upgrade the pools at Fuller Park, Wentworth Gardens, and Taylor Park, for example. But we don't really have many swimming pools in the 3rd Ward in our schools.
Does this reopening kind of represent the sort of investment that you think CPS should be making in neighborhood schools?
Yes, we've been disinvested in for a long time, but I'm pleased to say that, you know, just yesterday I was at Mollison Elementary School where they opened up a new teacher's lounge in addition to doing about $8 million worth of exterior and interior improvements so that when the kids come back in on August 24th, they're walking into a new facility that breathes new life into a building that has been disinvested in for years.
You know, I just looked it up. It's looking like there are only 4 pools located in elementary school campuses across CPS, which feels like it's not quite enough.
That definitely is not enough. I think that's why places like the YMCA and the Park District get a lot of attention, but we really need to be making that investment in our schools.
Well, it's a wonderful opportunity for the kids. I know that kids are coming back very soon. Have any of them had the chance to jump in and try it yet?
No, school doesn't open until the 24th of this month. But I don't want people to lose sight of the fact that this pool will probably be open to people in the community because we don't really have a place where we can go during the winter months to jump in the pool and enjoy the water.
Sure. Does that mean that we might see you, Alderman, doing a bunch?
No, and to be honest, I have a fear of water, which is probably because I did not learn how to swim. I didn't have that opportunity, and I'm glad that there are younger people and coming along now that have an opportunity to learn that skill.
Exactly. It comes full circle, just like you were saying, the importance of having that knowledge. Alderman Pat Dowell, it's such a great conversation. Like you said, I love having these conversations about the good that's being done in the community. And this is the last segment of the show, and what a positive note to end on. We really do appreciate you.
I agree. Thank you so much.
All right. Have a
nice
wonderful day.
Bye.
All right, guys, it is 3:55. We are just about done, but we're going to take a quick break. Don't go anywhere. Chicago Live rolls on. We will be right back.
From Chicago, this is Fox 32 News at 4. All right, that is a lot to catch up on, including the DNC just narrowed its host list. Is Chicago still on it?
Day 9, and still thousands of people